Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. It is that time of the year. It is scoring the players for the 2023-2024 season. Myself, Johnny, we've got Sam, and we've got Mr. Lee Lawler as well, for what I'm sure will be an easy night. There'll just be loads of agreements. There'll be no disagreements because we all think exactly the same about Newcastle United. I'm telling a few porkies because we all disagree on so many different things. But we have got a poll for player of the season. You've seen it in the thumbnail. There are four players, the main four players of the 2023-24 season of Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, and Fabian Schär. That is your four. You get to choose in the poll who is your player of the season. Of course, the club gave it to Anthony Gordon, but the Newcastle Fans TV vote is obviously the most important vote. Of course it is. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV. Good evening to Philip. Hope you're all well. We are all well. Sam's just come back from Turkey. Lee's just come back from Australia. And I've just
I
come
ain't
back
been to
from
Turkey.
Turkey?
Portugal, sorry. I've just come back from Turkey. No, I'm not joking.
You're finally getting that hair transplant
Yeah, we're
done.
getting that hair transplant.
Or the teeth? Is that where
Exactly.
people go nowadays?
Yeah, 6 and 2 threes. Liam's in the comments. Evening, Liam. But yeah, let's get started with Nicholas Pope. Sam, I'll let you start this one off. Only half a season, maybe just under half a season for Nick Pope after that injury against Manchester United in December. How did you rate his overall season?
Yeah, well, like many players we're going to discuss this evening, it's a season that's been blighted by injuries. You don't know what you've got until you haven't got it anymore, and he proved to be a very big miss, did Nick Pope. I'm quite surprised, actually, at the amount of goalkeepers we're being linked to this summer already, when I don't think there's any rush to replace him. It's unfortunate, as it has been with so many. What can you say? It's just gutting. It's a reoccurrence of that kind of shoulder collarbone kind of area that he's had before. But when he's been in the sticks, he's been solid. What can you say? He's been Nick Pope, hasn't he? He's been what you come to expect of him in that Newcastle goal. His absence has affected quite a lot, really, because with so many changes within the back four throughout the season, you need kind of that one constant between the sticks to be that voice, that leader, that commander. And yeah, we haven't had that this season, which I think is a big contributing factor as to why we've conceded so many goals. In terms of a rating for Pope, what can you say? 7, 8, 7? I'll go for a straightforward 7, I think, to kick things off.
I think the one thing I would say, Lee, is that in the games that he did play, I can't really remember him making a bad error of sorts. The only game that kind of springs to mind was Brighton away, where no one played well. But
Yeah.
he's been so important to Newcastle's success over the last couple of seasons, and we have missed him. Even though Dubravka's had good games, bad games, and different games, we have missed him.
100%. I think when Dubravka first came in, I was like, I think Dubravka, I know we'll come on to him in a minute. I'll try and keep it short, but eventually got better. But Nick Pope, you always think, oh my God, he comes flying out of goal, don't you? Oh, blooming hell. But I think he's really unfortunate not to be selected as third choice for the Euros. I just think that injuries basically cost him that place. Great shot stopper, probably the best, I would say, after Shea Given. I think he's better than Tim Krul at shot stopping. Let me know if you disagree in the comments, but I think he's that good at shot stopping. It's just the other areas of the pitch where, with his feet in particular, his distribution's not great. But I'll go along with Sam. I think it's just because I'll base mine on the fact that we've missed him for a good 20 odd games, about 20, whatever it is. I'll match them and go 7 out of 10. I don't think it's been a bad season, but I can't really rate someone too high if they've missed nearly half the season. So I'll match them.
I'll join you on the 7 out of 10 train for Nick Pope. I think there's still been some fantastic performances from Nick Pope this season. And look at the Brentford game, just the most recent game for Newcastle United, where he makes a crucial save at 3-2, or 3-1 rather, with Ivan Toney's header. He's just so important to Newcastle. I think Lee touched about it in terms of coming out for an area and being a bit nervous. Maybe that's because of keepers in the past, but I think Nick Pope, when he goes for a ball in the air, you kind of expect him to get it. It's such a great feeling to to get from a goalkeeper. But the first half of the season, the game that springs to mind is AC Milan away at the San Siro, Lee, when we were there. How many saves did he make that night? And it was, like I say, 0-0. He was absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, it's just an amazing player when he's fit. And as long as if you get a full season out of him, he's definitely playing for England in the Euros in some capacity. But yeah, it'd be interesting.
Can I put in before you move in? I don't get why we're linked to all these goalkeepers. I don't get that. I
I
don't get
think
why. I just don't. We don't need to strengthen that position.
is it not his age though?
No, I don't think Ramsdale's any better. I know Sam's gonna agree with me on that. I don't get these links, and I don't believe them either. You know what I'm like?
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Sam? Do you think Newcastle need a new number one?
A new number one, no. We could probably add some strength and depth in that goalkeeping department. We know Mark Gillespie is playing that Scott Carson role for us. And he's very good at doing so. As Eddie Howe paid tribute to Gillespie down under, Lee, when you were there against Spurs at the MCG. But yeah, Dubravka, who we're obviously going to come on to next, it's probably time for him. And maybe some more genuine competition for places is the argument you could have when it comes to a new goalkeeper this summer.
Yeah, it'd be very, very interesting to see if Newcastle do decide to purchase a new goalkeeper in this summer window. I think it'll be interesting because that'll be in terms of maybe a long term strategy, someone that's going to be in goal for 10 years in Newcastle. Or at least like to think that we're going to get a new goalkeeper and someone will be for 10 years. But it will be very, very interesting to see if Newcastle go that this window is the window for maybe next year. It could be. Lee, I'll let you start with Martin Dubravka, a man who came in 5 minutes from the end against Manchester United and played every game bar that last game against Brentford and the game against Arsenal. Really, that's the only two games he missed.
Yeah.
Look, to quote the famous, well, to quote one of the most famous quotes in football, is a Dubravka of two halves, because there's been moments where he's been absolutely outstanding, but there's been moments where he's been very, very shaky, particularly when he first came into the team. On the whole, has he done a good job for Newcastle?
What, this season? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good number two, but I think he'll never be in number one at Newcastle. I think that time's gone now. When he first come in, when he was signed, a great debut against Man United and fantastic for the next probably 2 year, and then injuries and signed to Nick Pope and what have you. But I think he's a good number two, and that's why I don't get why we need another goalkeeper unless he's asked to leave. I'll score him a peg down. I'll go down to a 6. There's been times when he first come in, as you say, Johnny, was shaking. There's shots where you're questioning, like, if Nick Pope's in goal, he can save that, you know. And even we were doing the last word outside the ground, I'm like, Pope will save that. You know, I know you shouldn't really compare, but you do naturally. But yeah, kept then went on a little bit of run where we're keeping a few clean sheets, and he was, you know, with the defence getting pulled all over the place with different personnel. I think 6 is probably fair. Steady Eddie, just above average, 6 out of 10 for me.
What about you, Sam? I think because it's obviously been a very, very interesting one regarding Dubravka. I think I do echo Lee's point. I think he is a good number two now for Newcastle United. He's obviously been a fantastic number one through the years. He has had the odd moment here and there, but uh, there was a bad period for Martin Dubravka at Newcastle in the sense that there was a lot of no confidence in him and his abilities, particularly that Tottenham game where it was a complete shambles, really. But he has recovered to an extent.
Yeah, I would describe Dubravka now as just broadly fine. Um, I, before Lee gave his mark, I had 5 out of 10 in my head. It took him a while to get going, to get warmed up after just so long out. A couple of very shaky performances. I think it was Everton away as well, wasn't his finest hour. Um, Blackburn in the cup, however, to play devil's advocate, he was absolutely superb and kept us in the cup that night. So
Fair
that
point.
shouldn't be forgotten. I like Dubravka. Time maybe catching up with him a little bit. Is he 35 now?
Is that how old
Uh,
he is?
mm,
I think he's certainly close to at that age. I think he's closer to 35 than he is 30. Put it that way.
yeah, so time is of the essence for him really. So it wouldn't surprise me if He wants to go somewhere else and have the last couple of seasons playing football, essentially, instead of being sat on the bench. Yeah, that's the only kind of argument I can generate really for a new goalkeeper. If he stays another year to sit on the bench, fine. But let's just hope that Pope has an injury-free season. Really, that's all I'll say on the matter. We don't need a kind of another goalkeeping injury crisis anytime soon. But I think at some point of the season he was maybe harshly treated a little bit. People clamouring for Karius is just desperate stuff. Really desperate stuff. Karius is no good. But yeah, Dubravka's broadly fine. That's all it is now. So I was going to give him a straight down the middle, 5 out of 10.
Yeah, so 5 or 6. I do. I think the one thing I would agree is that he hasn't been as strong as Pope, but that is expected because Pope is the better goalkeeper. I'll go 6 because I think that Blackburn game was massive at the time, and he has made some big saves. I think at the Bournemouth game there was 2 really really good saves from Dom Solanke. I know he made the slip in the second half, which was really unfortunate at the time, but he has made some big saves. But I think I kind of echo what you both said. It's really I don't think a goalkeeper is necessarily the number one objective for this summer transfer window. I know that's probably a separate video in itself, but if Newcastle
Especially now you have to kind of reevaluate things after Tosin now going to Chelsea as
yeah,
well. So, you might have to spend money on a centre half now instead of a goalkeeper.
exactly. So that'll be interesting. I'll go 6 out of 10 as I've mentioned there. James has mentioned that Dubravka turned 35 in January, so he'll be 36 by the end of next season. And Pope obviously is over 3 years younger. Mentions James. Yeah, Dylan says I've seen certain page says he's the worst keeper in our history. Honestly, man, yeah, I think he's not been that bad. He's been good for Newcastle since he arrived in 2018. Let's move on to Loris Karius. Something this might be a little bit quicker. Um, he's only played 2 games in his whole history at Newcastle United, and that was, of course, the Carabao Cup final against Manchester United. I'm talking about competitive games, and of course Arsenal at the Emirates, where I don't think he was that bad, but it was against an Arsenal side who were banging form, and Newcastle weren't banging form at the time. Is it just non-applicable, gents?
I would agree, non-applicable. He's only played 1 game, but I did question him that night because I was with Harry outside the Emirates, and I questioned him on 2 of the goals. So, but would have went down anyways. But yeah, non-applicable. He's going to move to Italy. His glamour wife, pretty little thing what she is, and presenting for Italy and whatever she does in Italian media. But you'll get a move to a second choice Serie A team, I would have thought. But yeah, I would say non-applicable personally.
Sam, you happy to agree?
Yeah, just a catastrophic waste of time otherwise.
Very, very, very fair. Yeah, so non-applicable for Loris Karius. Good luck in your next adventure. Defenders, and the man that will be leading England out at St James's Park, me and Lee will be at that game tomorrow night. We're sitting in the East Stand. First time I sat in the East Stand in about 10 years at least. But looking forward, at least, yeah, at
Under
least.
21s for me, I think.
Yeah. It is, of course, Kieran Trippier, the man who was Newcastle United's player of the season last year. He won't be getting player of the season this year, but it's been an interesting season for Kieran Trippier. Injuries, a bad December, uh, issues off the field in terms of, I think there was something to do with a burglary when he was away with England in national duty in November. Certainly didn't help things in general, but he has had some fantastic games, particularly at the start of the season as well. I'll kick this one off. I think that game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, where in the Carabao Cup quarter final, was just so disappointing because of a man with his experience. You want him just to kick it into Rose End. He was just trying to be a bit too clever, and if he doesn't try to be a bit too clever, we're probably in a semi-final against the Borough, and it's just so deflating. However, there has been good performances. On the whole, I'm gonna go 6 out of 10. I think for Kieran Trippier. I think
Ooh.
I just think there's been too many individual errors. But look, he's still. We're going to talk about another player who's leaving, probably about another half an hour or so, Matt Ritchie, and how important he's been in the signing. I still think Kieran Trippier has been the most important signing since the takeover. But I think the season levels have just dropped ever so slightly. and I do think 6 out of 10 for me anyway. Lee, I'll let you start between you and Sam. What are your thoughts, Kieran Trippier? You've been to pretty much every single game bar, I think just Luton really this season. What do you think?
10 assists. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal for a right back. So, and I think you got them 10 assists pretty early on in the season as well. And I think they came around about, it was definitely winter time. I think it was January. I think it was top, then he went joint top, and I think he's been overtaken. But going forward, still a massive threat on that right hand side. He's the best right attacker midfielder, even though he doesn't play there. That goes to show you. And don't get me wrong, Murphy's come on. I wouldn't say leaps and bounds, but better. And Miggy just, well, we'll come to him later. But still organising, captain, leader. And I think also off the pitch as well, he's in part of that leadership group. But going forward, he's still a threat. And Anais hasn't got the pace and stuff, but Anais got a bit of competition with Tino Livramento. But
Is he the best right back at the club at the minute?
yes. But I think it's narrowed that gap. I do. But I'll go 7. I agree with your points of defensively, but I think you cannot look at that and think, wow, 10 assists. Because Anthony Gordon would be proud of that. I know he's got, I think, one more, but great for a defender, that 10 assists. So 7 for me.
What about you, Sam? How do you, I suppose, look at both sides? I think December was very, very poor for Kieran Trippier's standards, but the injury as well towards the back end of the season didn't play well against Manchester United. I don't think he should have even played against Manchester United, if I'm being brutally honest. But I think Lee is right as well. He has contributed to a lot of what Newcastle have done going forward. Do you feel, though, I think the only reason I've knocked, because I was thinking 7, but the only reason I've knocked him down a point, I do feel there's been a couple of times in terms of a one-on-one basis, he has been beaten a little bit too easy for my liking. How do you assess everything with Kieran Trippier this season?
I'm shocked that you hate him so much.
I don't hate, of course not.
I absolutely staggered with the negativity about Kieran Trippier. Like Lee said, 10 assists from right back. It's incredible. Yes, there's been a few individual errors, but he still stands up to be counted, never shies away. Yes, that Chelsea Cup game was absolutely gutting because if you really, really, really want to kick the boot in, you could say he's arguably cost us a trophy. Borough in the semi-final, Liverpool reserves in the final. I'm not kicking the boot into him though. I love him. I think he's fantastic. I actually had 7 or 8 in my head, but before you and Lee kicked things off. Um, I just think he's so invaluable. Yes, nobody's getting any younger, and he's only got a year left on his deal, hasn't he? As has a number of the more experienced members of this squad. It's a tricky one because if you're playing it, you could easily play a drinking game along with this video. Really, to say how many times we mention injuries in this video, you should have a shot. Please drink responsibly. But
Damn, I'm on the water here.
Because you'd be absolutely hammered by 10 o'clock tonight. But yeah, Trippier for me, I'd go 7. I would hate to see him any lower than a 7. I'd be nudging 8 more than I would be dropping to 6. Captain, leader. It'd be great to see him play for England. Captain's armband on. You'll be there tomorrow night, and good on him.
I'll be cheering. I'll cheer him for NFTV.
He's still England's best left back.
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah.
That is very
Doesn't
worrying.
even play there.
I
Yeah, 10 assists for a right back. Astonishing, superb.
Yeah, I've slightly been outnumbered, which I'm happy to take. I'll follow my sword with that with a 7 out of 10. Even though Lee's been a bit funny with 6.66, even though he doesn't
Yeah,
like
because
going points.
what I'm doing, if people are gonna, I'm just basically adding our scores up and then dividing it by 3.
It would be
Yeah.
6.67 then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be all.
I'm just gonna. I'm gonna. I'll tell you what. This is going to be a new rule. If 2 people have said one thing and one person said another, we'll go with the majority. How about that? It makes things a little bit easier for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll go 7.
7 out of 10 for
Yeah,
Mr. Trippier.
that's right. Really.
Yeah. Next up on the list is Paul Dummer, who is leaving Newcastle after 23 years at the football club. A lot of his appearances, well, I think every appearance that he's made this season that I can think of, have all been substitute appearances. The one against
Whoa, whoa,
Everton.
whoa, 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 whoa.
I know what he's got to say, yeah.
What am I going to say?
Old Trafford.
Crafton Dummett at the back.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fair enough. I was thinking Premier League, but yes,
No, yeah,
again.
yeah, no, don't hide behind that excuse. We're doing the whole shebang. Crafton Dummett at the back. Duh.
Oh, that was a fantastic performance, let's be honest. But Everton was obviously disappointing. Obviously, he has just come on at times just essentially just run the clock down whenever he come on against Fulham and make a couple of clearances. Um, do we score more? Is it a non-applicable, gents? What do you think?
I mean, if we score him on the whole, it'll probably be low. Cost us 2 points at home to Everton, but look,
Agreed.
fantastic servant for the club. Been brilliant down the years. Filled in at left back, and I think he's been brilliant at centre back once his pace kind of went a little bit. Always a steady Eddie, Mr. Consistent. But yeah, best of luck to him. Wish him all the best for the future. Whatever he chooses to do, whether he keeps playing, goes into coaching, whatever. He deserves nothing but positivity. And yeah, great servant. And thank you, Paul, for your service.
Lee, are we going to go non-applicable on this one?
Yeah, thank you to Simi. He's joined, just become a member. So thank you very much, Simi, in the live chat. Thank you for that. You can see all of exclusive extra videos. We do about eight a month. I would agree. Non-applicable. Can't really say what else on top of Sam. I think it's just he's out on the lash at the minute, isn't he? As we're seeing on his Mark Gillespie's Instagram posts, randomly bumping into Corky and Pepperina as he do, out of Tonali, strangely enough. But long serving, I think the send-off and the video that I made for them was lovely. It really was.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see where he actually ends up then, if he goes abroad at the MLS or, because he's at the twilight of his career. But yeah, I think it's the right decision as well to let him go as well. I think that's right. So non-applicable for me.
Yeah, great servant, and he's been a pillar over the years for Newcastle United in terms of a local boy, doing well for his local club, and obviously he's big goals against Liverpool. I remember just over 10 years ago now, Manchester United in that 3-3 draw springs to mind as well. So there's been some big moments from Paul Dummett.
Leicester away during lockdown, that
Yeah,
ridiculous game.
yeah.
Gotta
Can you
love a
remember
Paul slide.
he scored 4 goals for Newcastle. That's 3 of them. Can you remember the other one?
Liverpool.
So you said Liverpool, Man United, and Leicester. There's one more
He scored in the cup, didn't he? Palace
against
away.
who? Yeah, that's the one.
Riviere scored 2 that night.
Yeah, and then they did the draw as it was going into extra time, and the Palace Tannoy said, "Well, the winner of this game will take on Manchester City away."
Lovely.
To be known that we were going to beat Manchester City with probably our third string, never mind our second string, but that was a great day as well. Yeah, keep your scores coming in, keep all your comments coming in as well. Remember, we have got that poll of player of the season between the likes of Gordon, Isaac, Cher, and Bruno. Yeah, thanks for the banter, Simi. Yes, I know I am going to Turkey for a hair transplant. The trip's been booked for a while now, so we'll move on swiftly for probably the best defender at the club last season. I would probably say, and Sven Botman hasn't really been like that for a number of injuries that I'm not going to say were his fault in terms of the main reason in terms of the club letting him decide what he should do with the torn ACL. I still think that was an absolutely ridiculous decision. I think that decision should have been taken off his hands, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Sam, I'll let you start off with Sven Botman. Such a shame, really, at the end of the day, when you look at that, the fact that he's had to come up against Manchester City, and I'm probably not going to see until probably minimum November, December.
One of the most frustrating aspects of this season has been the way Sven Botman's been handled. You've got one of the brightest, one of the best young centre halves in world football, and I don't say that lightly. And the way he was mismanaged from the club's medical department this season is nothing short of a disgrace. You take those decisions out of a player's hands. He could have done. I mean, an ACL's no picnic, obviously, but had that been allowed to carry on, he could have done some career-threatening damage. It was that serious. On the positive, couple of goals for him this season. one in that rout at Bramall Lane, the other was the consolation at Anfield, wasn't it? But look, next season we need a fully fit Sven Botman. That's all I'll say. And if we get that, and there's no long-lasting effects from this horrific kind of pattern of ACL injury that he's had, then he's still a very, very special player in terms of the score for this season. What can you really give him? How many I don't know if you've got the stats in front of you there, Johnny, but I don't know how many games he actually played in
It's going to be
this
over
season
15
because
to 20.
I don't think it'd be that much.
I think in all comps it'll be that much,
Yeah.
but
I wouldn't be so sure because if you think, did he even feature in the Champions League? He didn't play against PSG, which at home, which was the second game.
He played against Milan
In Milan.
In Milan, yeah.
Yeah. What can you really give him? It's tricky because he just looked towards like the final period of when he was in the side before he went off for the eventual operation. He looked so far off the pace. It was scary. It was really scary.
I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you for a score.
So you just got to go 6, I suppose.
I think it is a strange one, the Sven Botman case, but obviously you've spoken about in a little bit of detail about the fact that the injury crisis was a bit of a joke, and I do agree. There has been the odd outstanding performance from Sven Botman. Obviously, Sheffield United was obviously a great performance, and even Aston Villa at the start of the season was a good performance. But there hasn't. It is such a difficult one. How do you assess the Botman situation in all? Because if anything, it's probably the biggest learning curve the medical team have had this season because
Yeah.
it was the wrong decision.
Awful. There's a lot of debate in the comments. 4s, 6s, 5s. It's kind of like it's interesting to see what everybody says. And Botman's played 22. That's what Niana says. That's surprising. I'm going to go 5. I just think when he has played, and rightly, the question has to be thrown out there about the medical team because they're largely to blame for this score as well. But you can see he's just off the pace. Fabian Schär and Jamal Lascelles have had a better season than him, and we'll come on to them in a minute. But I just think when he has played, he just I don't know from the previous campaign, and he looks like a shadow of his former self. It's a shame because it's not. I don't think it's about the ability of the player. I just think it's about the treatment, and he shouldn't be making the decision to play on. That shouldn't be a player's call if he's got a carrying. I mean, how can you not that you've got an ACL? How do you not know this? And then the player decides that he'll play on. It shouldn't be up to the player at all.
No,
It shouldn't be. It's absolutely scandalous. The medical, it's shocking. It's a professional club in the Premier League playing a player who's got an ACL. What was it, 4 games? That's mental.
yeah,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but the thing is as well, like Jamal Lascelles did his and tried to play on against West Ham, didn't he?
I know it's like, oh, go on, lads, keep going. But I'm going to score 5 just because of the fact I'm basing on the injury, how long he's been out for, and and on the pitch. Other defenders alongside him have been better.
I'm gonna agree, and I don't want to agree with you, Lee, on this one because I'm a massive Sven Botman fan, and there was so many times last season, in particular, you come off games and you're thinking, how good is Sven Botman? How on earth have we managed to get a kid in? He's got so much to give in terms of a footballer, and he's decided to play for us rather than going to AC Milan at the time. He's had some fantastic performances, and there has been a couple of good performances this season. I even think the Sunderland game he played well against the Mountains. But I tend to agree in the sense that the whole case of the injury is absolutely scuppered in this season. And again, it's not his fault that he's getting this rating, but we have to assess it on what we've seen. So yeah, I'm going 5 out of 10 for Mr. Botman. Next up is Fabian Schär. Lee, I'll let you kick off this one. He's one of the 4 players nominated for Player of the Season in our poll. Again, that poll is still live. It will be until the end of the video. An outstanding season. He's always been the one player that's kind of almost gone under the radar, but he's just so important to how Eddie Howe wants to see his defenders play football, and he just gives you so much, doesn't he?
His best season by a mile, and obviously when he was first brought in, he was a flamboyant, going forward, Philippe Albert-esque and what have you. but I just think his defensive game he's the best defender at the club. I just think his defensive game, positioning, he's obviously his age isn't on his side, but if we had him 10 years ago, how much would you sell him for? Because he would be right up there for the value. You're talking 50, 60 million if he was like 10 years younger. I just think his reading of the game is phenomenal. We know that he's got it in his locker. He'll score the odd worldie and ping a ball. He looks for that pass and the odd occasion that you'll join the attack. Fuck it, 10 out of 10 for Fabian Schär. I'm going all the way. I think also the other players, and Sam's going to disagree. I think you've got to. I think all four players, it's a case of who do you want? I mean, can you really question Fabian Schär's fault this season? 10 out of 10 for me.
Sam, that PSG game will live long in the memory to so many Newcastle fans, probably every Newcastle fan, man, woman, and child. And he obviously scored that fantastic goal. He's such a massive outlay in terms of the attacking threat he actually gives Newcastle as well, and the goal against Spurs with the header as well is something that just sprung to mind. There's just so many different moments of Fabian Schär. However, I don't know whether I'd go 10 out of 10. I think there's been a couple of performances this season. I don't think he's been part of a defence where they've conceded goals, but you would have to say this season he's been our best defender.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I wouldn't be going 10 out of 10. No, I wouldn't. I think you got a bit misty-eyed about some of his defensive work at points this season. When you think of Fabian Schär, you think of his goal contributions, which is crazy for a centre half. And there have been many. Villa away, Forest, wasn't it, Lee? When we were, well, there was Bruno. Schär got on the score sheet as well, if I seem to remember. Right. Various limbs on a evening in the City ground. But yeah, he's been phenomenal this season. Like you mentioned, the PSG game in the Leazes and that night. As soon as that ball left his boot, it was only going in one place. Incredible. So many goal contributions. Like as we've compared him to Philippe Albert many times down the years. He's just fantastic. 3 million. We keep coming back to that price tag. 3 million. Incredible.
Less than Milberg.
Yeah.
Do you not think his defensive capabilities have improved? Because he's not talking about he's going forward, but
yes,
defensively, I've seen a totally different change in him.
Yes, he's improved defensively. Of course he has, because back in the day, we can't play in a flat back four, yada yada yada. He has to play in a five with wing backs and all that carry on. So yes, of course he's improved his defensive game. There are still some flaws in it, but that's nitpicking. I'm not criticising him. He's still, rightly so, he's in the conversation for player of the season. Out of the four we've highlighted, to me, he probably just is about fourth. But,
what are you rating him?
Yeah, one of the players of the season for sure. Before Lee gave him a 10, I had 8 in my head, so I'd probably 8.5. Let's go decimals.
I'm going 9 out of 10 for Mr. Schär. And the one thing I will say about Fabian Schär is that he's played with probably 4 different players at the back. Like he's played with Jamal Lascelles, he's played with Sven Botman, he's played with Emil Krafth. I think he's played with Dan Burn. Like there's been a few that he's had to play different types of, all sorts of different types of central defenders, and he's still putting in stellar performances. That PSG game was just incredible. But he gives us such a different option with that ball, that switch of a ball to a Gordon or a Barnes. Normally Gordon, and Gordon's obviously got so much joy out of that. But that Villa away performance, he nearly had a hat trick. But the 2 goals that he did score, the second one was almost a striker's instinct. The first one was a great finish, and it was a mental in the away end that day. But I do agree. I think this has been his best season in Newcastle shirt. I just think he's been absolutely brilliant, and he needs a better song. He deserves a better song at Newcastle, if I'm being honest. But
yeah,
there's 2, isn't it? There's one that the video killed the radio star when they changed the name.
Yeah, I don't
like Come By. What's it? Come By Shaw. I don't like that one.
Yeah, I just think for someone that's done as well as he
Like
has.
that.
Yeah, for someone that's done as well as he has at Newcastle, I think he just needs a better chance. That'll be the thing that we need to do this season for Fabian Schär. But yeah, 9 out of 10, just about. After the 8.5s and the 10s and the 9s, we'll go 9. Jamal Lascelles, another ACL victim. I'll start with Jamal Lascelles. I actually think he was having a pretty solid season before that injury. I think I'm not going to say he was being perfect, but everybody was worried when he came back in when Botman got the injury. And I think of the game against Paris Saint-Germain, where we're like, oh, right, how well can you do in this sort of environment? And he was absolutely fantastic. He was absolutely brilliant that night. There's been some big performances in the Premier League as well. There's been the goal against Chelsea, where he was at, like I say, that was a big moment at the time. It might be one of the last appearances we see of Jamal Lascelles. He's out of contract next season, and also he's going to be back probably about the same time as Botman, November, December time. So yeah, it's been some big performances from Jamal Lascelles. Let me think. What am I going to go? I'm going to go 7 out of 10 for the skipper. I think he's been unlucky, like I say, unlucky to get that injury because it looked strange at first. Like Sam, you were sitting next to me that day, weren't you, against West Ham? And
Wasn't that a challenge?
I don't know what it was.
It was what do you
was
call
it
him? Antonio.
clueless?
Miguel
Was it
Antonio.
Antonio? But
Bad landing as well, wasn't it?
yeah.
And it looked really bad at the start, and then from getting a stretcher, he wanted to walk off and then carry on. Which again, those decisions need to be taken away from the player. It was stupid letting him play on. But when it comes to Jamal Lascelles, I think he's been absolutely superb this season when called upon.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of players, when they play like that, just fill me with pride. From Championship to Champions League, Jamal Lascelles, club captain. Under three managers, still club captain, stood up to be counted. And this season, when called upon, he was absolutely superb against Paris Saint-Germain, against Mbappe and Dembele. Never really had a real genuine sniff, particularly Mbappe. I thought he was absolutely exceptional. There's been a couple of 9 out of 10 performances from Lascelles this season. Certainly more 9 out of 10 performances than kind of 4, 5 out of 10 performances that we were used to under Steve Bruce. But I always said I'd keep him because I think he's a fantastic option, great squad player, leader, and has been a leader in that dressing room for many, many years now. I'm comfortable with your 7, Johnny. I wouldn't argue against that. If I'd be tempted to nudge him up to a 7.5, but on the whole, I'm fine with a 7. It's a real shame he got injured when he did. Real shame. But yeah, I think it's been a on the whole very productive season for Jamal.
When you look at Jamal Lascelles' contribution this season, it has been what me and Sam have pretty much said. It's been stellar. He's been comfortable. I think he has improved his game, particularly on the ball. I think that was always the worry with Newcastle fans in particular, is that our defence is very, very good on the ball, and that's where he was lacking. You can see he's worked on it. You can see that the players trust him on the ball a little bit more now. The injuries come at the wrong time, at a really bad time, I should say. And obviously, he's out of contract next season. I think this might be Jamal Lascelles' last season for Newcastle. That may have been the case anyway, regardless of what the injury, if he didn't get the injury. But he's certainly a fantastic person to have around Newcastle United.
Yeah, you're right about the game because you just go long. Oh, come on. What did mean 40 keep seeing you, Johnny, for a few weeks with Lascelles outside the ground?
That he's been playing well. I don't know. I can't remember.
Can't bring Bottom back on the side. Remember, I was saying that couldn't bring him in. We were having that argument. Jamal Lascelles, and that's how well he was being playing. Because
Yeah.
it's very rare that probably anyone on the channel the last few years have stuck up for Jamal Lascelles, except from the season when we first come up. But me and Fordy were like, no, you cannot drop him. Why? How can you drop a player that's in form? It's not fair. And he kept his place for a little bit of a while. Then he came out the side, which was probably a little bit harsh. But I'll match that. I think it is a 7, just because of the fact that he got in the side, was playing superbly. If he played like that all season, that would be a 9. It really would. He's that good, but because the injuries happened again, it's ruled him out. We're all over the place defensively yet again, but 7 is about right. And big season ahead of him next season because he's going to have to try and win a contract.
100%.
I
Big
think he'll
season
get
for
one as well, to be honest. I wouldn't be writing him off to say that this is his last
Got no
year.
sell on value. Is what 31?
Would not surprise me. Again, especially with Tosin not joining us now. It wouldn't surprise me if he got another year or two.
We'll see. We'll see. See what happens. Big season next season, regardless. Amanda, we've not seen a lot of at all within the last probably 2 seasons at Newcastle. Matt Targett, remember him? I think this has to be a non-applicable because he's played. I think he's played the League Cup games before he got injured in the first 2 minutes at Man United,
In
and that's
centre
only
midfield.
which is just bizarre. But
Can I
it's
take you back
just
to Wakefield when we were having
I
that
knew he was going
debate?
to bring this up.
I know, but I think it's a fair point now. I think
It
it's
is
just
now.
I
Okay.
think at the time though, and this is to defend Lee and I a little bit. We did know how obviously it was quite early on in the transfer window 2 years ago in the sense of what are Newcastle going to do, and I just thought we need to keep Premier League proven players, but what we actually going for was players that were almost European quality in terms of being able to get this team into some sort of European competition, but again. Big season for Matt Targett. He doesn't. Is it fair to say that Matt Targett's probably 4th choice left back?
Yeah, you have to worry about Jamal Lewis as well because he needs going. I think Matt Targett needs to go. I think there is rumours that he's on crazy wages. I don't know how much is that true. If he's on 100k or not, I don't know if that's fully true or not. That might be over exaggeration, but it's not applicable. I agree. But if we can get a little bit of money off him in the summer, great. But
Should never have signed him on a permanent, like I said, all along.
didn't you want Raphael Lodell, whatever you call him, from Forest?
Lodi, he's
Renan
not
Lodi,
supposed anymore. He's only on loan. He's not a bad player. Let's not
yeah.
get carried away. But yeah, I would still rather have had him than Target. I've nothing against Target. He's fine. And to be fair, getting him from Villa, I would rather have Target than Luca Dean. But I just didn't see the point of making that deal permanent. You have to have more
I did
foresight.
at the time. I did at the time. It makes sense.
Exactly at the time, but you need to have some fucking foresight when you're dealing with these kind of transfers, and you've got to box clever when you're dealing with FFP and PSR and FFS and all that kind of. That's an incredible joke that just went over your head then. But it's one of them. Target should not have been signed on a permanent. Um, Lewis Hall's the one for the future now. He got into the team eventually towards the end of the season. Wouldn't surprise me if we go in again for another left back, just for a bit of competition for places. And obviously Lewis Hall's got mountains of time on his side. But yeah, Target was just he's not a bad player. He's perfectly fine. It's just so unnecessary and a waste of money for to have made that deal permanent when we did. I didn't understand it then, and I still don't now.
Yeah, well, I think it's one way. Again, we didn't realize that Dan Burn was going to be so good at left back for a season or practically a season as well. I think. Look, I don't think it. I think it's probably the wrong decision when you look back now, but at the time it seemed like the right decision. I wasn't too sure on the fee. That was the only thing I had a bit of an issue with at the time. Moving on to Emil Kraft, a player that Sam and I have had debates with, or debates about rather, for so many years. But I think we can both agree that Emil Kraft has been absolutely fine this season. I think he's been solid, which I never thought I'd say. But I'm glad to be proven wrong on this one. I think we it feels like such a long time ago, actually, Sam, when we think about it and the whole Yedlin, Mankier, Kraft debate, and then you're thinking Trippier comes in and we'll not see Emil Kraft again, and Emil Kraft's been like a right centre half and a right back as well. I'll let you start on Emil Kraft, Sam. What do you make of him this season?
Again, broadly fine. Whether he's been deployed at right back or right centre half, which shown his tactileness and his versatility, which you need to have when you're a bit of a squad player. I'd probably give him a 6, to be honest. I don't think he's been anything spectacular. What I will say is on a slightly negative standpoint because on the whole he's been all right during the season. But if he doesn't go off against West Ham, we don't come back and win that game.
That was the one thing I was going to say to you. Is that the only game they just couldn't get into it? He
He
came on
was
for
no, it's the
Lascelles.
only game he's been absolutely shocking.
Yeah,
All the others, he's been fine, good squad player, and better than Manquillo, as I said all along, Jonathan.
I know. I have to be honest though. I didn't rate either of them at that position. I have to be honest. I was never Manquillo's biggest fan. I just thought defensively he was okay. Going forward, he was meh. But yeah,
Yeah, can I just very quickly sidetrack and address a comment from Bob as he's pointed out that I'm drinking Guinness out of a can. I am because my Guinness glass broke and I would rather drink it out of a can than like a San Miguel pint glass, which I think is more of a sin than it is drinking it out of a
You're not
can.
wrong with San Miguel. I have my San Miguel's at the
No,
pub.
no, 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 no. A San Miguel glass. You don't put
Ah,
Guinness in like a San Miguel glass or a Thatcher's glass or anything like that. I think that would have been a more sacrilege than just drinking out of a widgeted can. Sorry, continue.
okay, Lee. Can you tell me about craft beers and Emil Craft, please?
yeah, I'm going to match Sam. 6 out of 10. I think he's steady Eddie. The praise I'll give him is personally, I don't know how you feel. I don't worry as much about him as what I used to. And I think that goes to show you, again, his games come leaps and bounds on Eddie Howe, and I think he probably deserves that trigger of the 1 year extension. Look, he's got no sell on value. We're not going to get much off him anyways, even if we tied him down to a longer deal. But he's effectively, you've got the option now of playing him centre back and right back because he's steady on both. But he's not going to be anything more than a squad player, but at least he's dependable. And it's not like, oh my God, anymore, because it used to be. But aye, that's all I have to say on
Well,
that.
he had to show that versatility though, didn't he? Because essentially he's third choice right back now.
Aye.
Mm,
But
100%.
he's good as a squad player. He ticks the box. I get. There's a lot of people on the social media saying, "Oh, why?" I get why he's a squad player. And he's now you look at who's left, like Dummett, and that it makes sense to keep Kraft as a squad player for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with the 6 out of 10 mark. I think he's obviously the game at Manchester United in the League Cup. Kraft and Dummett at the back. He was absolutely fine. He was outstanding in moments this season. I have to be honest. There's been some great defensive um, moments for Emil Kraft this season, particularly at the right centre back that I can think of. But yeah, the West Ham game is the only game that I really think just wasn't the right game for him. Just wasn't. I think that was more down to Eddie Howe, if I'm being really honest. I think it was just I think it was just a tactically bad move at the time. But look, we ended up getting the win out of it, so it's kind of forgotten about almost. But yeah, 6 out of 10, and again, quite happy with him being that third choice centre half and that third choice right back when we need him. Dan Burn, Lee, I'll let you start off with Dan Burn. Um, if Dan Burn played centre half all season, we'd probably be minimum 8 out of 10. And he started the season at left back, got injured against Arsenal, came back in at left back, and then we just saw that if you put a right winger with pace,
Yeah, he struggled, didn't he, for a little bit?
you struggle. And then he got taken out the firing line and then had to go back in at centre half because of the injuries that we had and ended the season well. It's a difficult one to mark, so best of luck.
Aye, pal from Melbourne. Put me randomly on the street. Yeah, you kind of just described the season. Um, like I say, if you play centre back, I think he's got a shout because I don't think England are blessed with many great centre backs. Of an outside look because I don't think he's any worse than Lewis Dunk at centre back. So left back, yeah, you got rinsed a few times and that was the qualms. Like we're getting rinsed on that side, and there was a bit of worry at the spell of the season, and because Anthony Gordon, as much as he's great going forward, doesn't necessarily track back as much as Miggy does on the other side. So we're a little bit, and we didn't have a defensive midfield to cover that side to come over as well. So the likes of Joe Linton at times and would step across, and even Willock. But yeah, I'm going to go 7. I think that's a fair score for him. I think he's been up and down this season, but overall, I think 7's probably justice for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with 7 as well for Dan Burn. I think he started the season actually all right at left back. There wasn't like considering obviously 3 of the first 4 were against Man City, Liverpool, and Brighton in terms of who we lost to, and that was tough. Like that's tough at the best of times. So
Yeah, that Luton game, he got rinsed by Benny, didn't he?
yeah, Yeah, Ogbene, and then obviously Semenyo had
Salah.
joy as well. Yeah, so there's been obviously players have had joy against him, but he has put in some good performances at times as well this season. I'd happily go with the 7. Sam, what's your thoughts on the Dan Burn situation? Because in the sense, he, I still think he's been absolutely fine for Newcastle. I do. I don't think again he's a player that again I'm very very comfortable with, but I do think which is not a massive surprise, he's a natural centre half.
Yeah, 7 for me. I'm more than happy with a 7. I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as some people online were making out. Um, Standards obviously not as high as they were last season. He acknowledged that in a very forthright interview with Football Focus, I think it was. But yeah, I still think he's great, and like you say, when he came back into the team at centre half, did an absolutely sterling job. And it's not easy for a 6'7" bloke to play the left back role, which he did for 18 months. Um, and what I would say is, you can kind of nitpick and say, oh, some wingers have had joy against him, but he's shut out some top wingers as well. Um, Usman Dembele, who, yes, for me, has always been and will continue to be. I know he found a bit of form towards the end of the season, but for me, Usman Dembele is the most overrated player in world football. Um, Dan Burn it was easy work for him, and Burns played well against some very very tricky wingers this season. Um, but yeah, for me, look, 7 out of 10. There's nothing really wrong with Dan Burn at all, and I'm actually jealous of you, Lee, meeting Dan Burn. But I imagine for you, it was kind of just like being with me anyway.
It was, he had to crouch down, bless him, and Matt Ritchie was
No-
laughing. But Matt Ritchie's about the same height as me anyway.
Yeah,
So, but Gillespie, yeah, big shout out to Mark Gillespie, legend. Love that comment. But that was good.
Yeah, very good, very good. A good that you managed to see. Obviously, a few players out in Australia. That was good to see as well. I'm going to briefly mention Alex Murphy. This is going to be a non-applicable. I'm going to straight away say non-applicable. He's been given a couple of chances just to kind of experience Premier League football, particularly against Sheffield United. I'm trying to think who he came on earlier at St James's. Can't really remember off the top of my head, but he's been given like 10 minutes, 5 minutes here and there. But one for the future, one for the future. And I think he's kind of going to be the one over the next 2 years. Let's see what happens with Alex Murphy. Whether he goes out on loan this year, I think there's been a few people are saying that if he go to get him in the Championship, why don't we let him go to Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick and X, Y, and Z. But let's see what Eddie Howe thinks. He may think, we might actually just need him in the squad. My only fear is that because there's not going to be as many games next season, it's probably a loan spell's probably the best thing for him. But that's one. I think that's one for the future more than anything. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But Sam seems to be in shock.
no, I'm not in shock. I was just scrolling back through the comments because there's an absolute belter regarding Dan Burr from Geordie Toon for Life. Just to finish your point on Alex Murphy, brilliant, signed a new deal, one for the future, cracking.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens with him. But Geordie Toon for Life has said Burn at left back had very little help from left-sided midfield players, which brings me on to the point I completely forgot to make when discussing Dan Burn. Is the worst thing that happened to him at left back this season was Joe Linton being injured for so long,
Yeah,
because
hundred
they had
percent.
that fantastic partnership down that left hand side, whether Joe Linton was playing left wing or the left hand side of the three in the centre. He received very little support from elsewhere. Whether that was Willett coming back in the side for a brief spell between injuries, and of course I mentioned the PSG game facing Dembele. I didn't even mention his goal that he scored.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Burn
Dan
scored.
Burns scored in the Champions League. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And Tino Livramento's next. And what an outstanding young player he's going to be. If he carries on the way he's going in a Newcastle shirt, like that first proper game that we really saw him play, I know he might have played a few minutes before that, but that game against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup, where he literally had Jack Grealish in his pocket, like literally, it was unbelievable. I'll start this one off by saying barely put a foot wrong for Newcastle. I mean, the Arsenal game is the only one I can think of where again, not many people had a good day at Arsenal. But he just he loves the one-on-one battles with the wingers. He reads the game really well. Not afraid to put a foot in. Going forward, I think his crossing could be a little bit better at times. I think I'm being nitpicking, but great to see him get the goal against Wolves. Really good first season. I think again he's working with the likes of Kieran Trippier, which is it's almost like the heir to the throne. I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for Tino Livramento. What a good start in a Newcastle shirt for Tino Livramento. Lee, I'll let you continue with Tino. He's loved in Newcastle. He seems to kind of get it a little bit. Young lad coming from down south. Obviously, he's a London boy. Then went to Southampton, got a bad injury, but the move for him seems to have been the best thing for him. He's flourished.
Big eyebrows were raised about his transfer fee for both the new fullbacks, but look at that run against Man United in the cup. Oh, sensational. Not just that, he actually wins the ball back, and then he's got the audacity and the cheekiness just to drive forward and go past 2 or 3 players, and then that split pass, unreal. What an assist. For me, that's probably our assist of the season. For me, unbelievable. Yeah, what a talent. Left or right, he doesn't look out of position. Naturally, he's right back, but even when he plays at left back, it's like, blimey, hell, this lad's good. And as I mentioned earlier, the gap between him and Trippier has definitely come down. I think he will play a lot more games next season because of the fact that he can switch either side. And a couple of times, probably because of injury, he's filled in at right midfield late on. But yeah, a good season for us, and I won't be surprised that scores matches next season or goes on to even nines, and because there's a lot of companies will be looking and thinking this lad's talented now because he's eligible for 3 countries. So great season for him. What a signing! I'll match that.
Is he a £40 million fullback, Sam?
Time will tell. Been a fantastic first season of development for him, and I think he's come a long way. Early doors of the season, if you cast your mind back, how kind of deployed him off the bench to play right wing to kind of see a game out. Played right wing at Dortmund as well, didn't he? If memory serves. But yeah, the performances he's shown have been a fantastic marker to lay down. As Lee said, the gap between him and Trippier has narrowed a lot more than I think all of us expected to. Was always had always had the potential. Again, another player disrupted by ACLs earlier on in his career, but yeah, really exciting talent. And you mentioned the Man City game, you mentioned the Manchester United assist. I'd put forward away in Paris as well. He makes that long bursting run, which and then sets it up for Miggy to have the shot, which Donnarumma spills, which leads to our goal in the end. Later on in that game, he was absolutely just, what can you say?
Allegedly the best referee in the world as well.
And he was. The ref had a superb game up until that point. Um, it was just an absolute heartbreaker, wasn't it? Should never have been handball. And gutted for Tino. But on a whole, I'm more than happy with an 8 out of 10 when he's played. He's looked exceptional and really exciting. Hopefully, he can stay injury free, and there should be plenty more to come from him. And you know, Southgate will have to take a look at him, even though it's the one area really that England are so strong, that versatility of left back. Even though I don't particularly like him at left back, but that versatility element may see him deployed there for England at a later date because he's really exciting talent. Yeah, 8 out of 10.
I'd rather have Livramento and Burn at left back.
Yeah, yeah, I think just for the pace aspect, I think that's the only thing I would say. I think Dan Burn's been absolutely fine for the vast majority of the time he's played left back, but I do agree. I think it's just time for Tino. If we need to deploy him there, we deploy him there. Some would argue that he should be first choice right back. Again, some people will argue in the comments. I would still put Trippier in front of Tino at
I would
this
rather
moment in time.
Trippier left back
And Tino right back
than Tino left back.
Let's see. Get in the comments if you agree, disagree with what we're saying about the left back, right back debate in Newcastle. Another exciting young talent is Lewis Hall, and that deal will be made permanent if it hasn't been announced already. Lewis Hall didn't really get a look in, let's be honest. He scored the goal against Manchester United in the Carabao Cup and then just didn't see him for ages. He obviously got hooked up against Bournemouth away from home, got hooked up against Dortmund as well. Just wasn't the right game for him. I think he even openly admitted that he just couldn't kind of grasp what Eddie Howe was wanting him to do. But ended the season really, really well, Lee. And again, I don't think the mark will be the greatest under the circumstances, but you'd rather him end the season well to think, well, actually, do you know what? Maybe a good pre-season and, almost like a Gordon, if you like, have a good break, have a really good pre-season, then come back into the team and go, well, I'm left back. You're going to have to do something incredible to get me out of this team, essentially.
Yeah, I think this is a tough mark. I really do, because he just wasn't seen all season bar the League Cup, and then he comes in randomly. And there was calls from questions I did. I think you two did. Why isn't he playing him? Is it the contract stipulation? What is it? It's you can't be that bad. And obviously, eventually, Eddie Howe was asked, and he just said that the fact that we'll get his place in the side it's just down to the ability and the patience and learning on his defensive capabilities, but. So yeah, I would love to score him high, because that run in towards the end, the last 7 or 8 games that he started, absolutely brilliant. But going to rule my head over me heart, and I'll score him a 6, just because of the fact that we didn't see enough of him for 3 quarters of the season, and he was only coming on for like 5 minutes. It was odd. It's like we were seeing at the end of the season that he's just blossomed, and there's a position that you know do you need to strengthen, because you've got all these players underneath him? You need to sell before buying another left back for me, because I know there's like Leif Davis, is obviously Geordie himself, and he could be his competition. But yeah, 6.
Sam, where do you stand on this? Because, particularly towards the back end, some really, really good performances. That obviously the goal against Manchester United, both in the cup and in the Premier League. I thought, the Brentford game. I know when Bremer had these moments against him, but in the second half he wins the free kick. Everyone thought it was a penalty at the time, but there's been standout moments. There is more to come, and I think that's the exciting prospect. He's such a young player as well, only 19. I think it was actually a really bit of shrewd business getting him in, because there's so much potential with that lad.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Lee in that it's one of the trickier ones to score. Look, in footballing terms, he's still a baby. And this score in no way reflects his ability or his future potential, really. Shout out Connor as well, his brother, who's a previous guest of the Greenwood and Mulliner show.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the shining light in a very bleak season for Chelsea last year. And let's not forget, I think 2-3 weeks before we signed him, he signed a new deal at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
So this was really out of left field. This deal, yeah, stop start, but the penny has finally dropped with what his role is. Howard deployed him at left wing, centre mid, and it was look, he's versatile. But left back is where I think we'd agree was where we signed him for. Basically, I think 6 is fair enough, with a kind of asterisk next to it, with kind of more to come from him.
Mm-hmm.
And with Howe's kind of the way he goes about picking a team, he has the shirt. If he's fit, it really wouldn't surprise me if he started that first game of the season. But yeah, there's more to come. Another exciting young player for us. But yeah, there was a few games in that, like you mentioned, Dortmund away. I thought he was terrible, and had a really rough time of things for him. But he'll learn from that. Competition for places, will that be from Lloyd Kelly and Dan Burn, with that versatility aspect of things? But look, Lewis Hall, very, very capable young player in my eyes, and still boundless potential, and still very exciting.
Yeah, certainly. The last little thing I want to say on Hall, I agree with the 6 out of 10. We played Man City away in the cup. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch from a Newcastle point of view, and he only played 25, 30 minutes. I think, and I know it wasn't difficult because just the way we played that day, but I thought, you know what, if you can come on against the best team on the planet, in my opinion, and you can handle yourself and do all right, then yeah, let's see what he can do from now at the end of the season. But yeah, nothing but praise for Liverpool. Nothing but praise. Let's keep it going. But 6 out of 10, I think,
Best
is
team
fair
in the
praise.
world. I'd like to see him try and do a job on Hosselu.
Well, what can I say? What can I say? Well done to the former Newcastle man getting that Champions League medal. We're going to move on to the midfielders, believe it or not. The midfielders. We've been here an hour and 5 minutes and we're only touching the midfielders now. And the
Bloody hell, I've
man
been
that
up since 6.
I know, and the man that's going to start things off as a man who's just announced that he's leaving. Very, very classy letter to the fans, letter to everybody connected with Newcastle United is Mr. Matthew Ritchie. He's got his HGV licence, but he's leaving as a Newcastle legend. Over 200 appearances for the football club. One of the shining stars and the last 10 years of this football club. And the right time, definitely the right time. Some would argue maybe a year or 2 years too much. But I think the one thing you would say, Lee, the role he's played off the pitch the last 2 years and the role that he's played on the pitch for the first 6 or 7 years of his time at Newcastle can't be underestimated. One of the best signings we've had.
Great signing, unbelievable. Little bit eyebrows again at the time of the pricing of it. It was like 12 million for a winger because I didn't know too much of him at Bournemouth, but big fee. He repaid that back within a year or two. Obviously, we've got memories of Richie kicking, corner flags going into people's balls, landing in there, and you've got the night against Burton, the penalty carry on, and then he's redeems himself and scores the winner. The lockdown when you hear him say some strong words, shall we say? He's got all of these little. And it's weird because he's like, I get the sense that his humour's quite dry, but he's quite quirky at the same time with all these little things. In years to come, I think he'll be remembered for a lot of these stuff as well. But the first probably good 3 years at the club, first choice, scored goals for fun. The Man United winner as well a few years ago. I think was that Dubravka's debut? Might have
Yeah,
been.
it was.
It was. Fortunately, I'm going to score him in non-applicable because I
Yeah,
just don't think he's had enough minutes. He has scored a goal this season, literally on the line. But corner kick got kicked once more. But absolutely brilliant servant. So he's one of them. Even Isaac Hayden gave him so much love, saying he's one of the most important signings. So NA for me.
yeah, not applicable. But Sam, just a brief word on Matt Ritchie's time at Newcastle.
I've said it before, whether it be on NFTV or stuff I do with the Chronicle, but look, I cannot praise this man enough. Slightly different to Lee. I've got an old friend of mine that's a Swindon Town fan, and he alerted me to Matt Ritchie even before Ritchie joined Bournemouth. So he's actually a player I'd sort of kind of kept half an eye on throughout the years. And when we signed him, I thought it was a brilliant piece of business from Rafa. And if you had an 11 of Matt Ritchie's on the pitch, you'd win nigh on every game. Wand of a left foot, commitment, endeavour, desire, will to win. Just a phenomenal competitor, and one of, if not the most important player in Newcastle United history from the past decade. Just so important on and off the pitch. Even in recent times when he wasn't getting that game, you cast your mind back to Brentford last season. Anthony Gordon
Yeah.
throwing a bit of a tantrum, being subbed. Ritchie getting him round the shoulder. And calming things down. Before then, having an argument with Steve Bruce on the training ground, which got leaked, and whether it's his pats on the head, which are very aggressive, or his pats on the backside, which are equally as aggressive. Um, just vital in every way, shape, or form for Newcastle United over the past 10 years, whether it be in the Championship, whether it be that first season back in the Premier League, scoring winners against Manchester United, scoring winners against Arsenal, scoring absolute rockets like that volley against Bournemouth to snatch a point, and this season again popping up to snatch a point for us in the dying embers of the game, right in front of me and my lad at the Gallagher end. And that just when that little mask slipped, because normally a guy like that will be so focused he would have got the ball, picked it up, and ran back to the centre circle. But Richie just slipped, and you could see this might just be the last time he got to really smash a corner
Yeah.
flag, and he did so with aplomb. Had him on the channel, of course, over lockdown, where Lee set up that surprise for myself. Look, he's been living in Newcastle when his family have still been living in the New Forest on the south coast. He's been linked with the move away pretty much every transfer window since he joined, and he's stuck loyal, stayed loyal, got into coaching and doing bits and pieces around the academy. I hope he goes and gets his move that he wants, which is to Portsmouth. He wants to finish his career at Portsmouth, which is what he told me when I spoke to him during lockdown. I hope he gets that. And I just wish him every success in the world because there is no one more deserving than Matt Ritchie.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Right, let's move on to Jacob Murphy. I get so frustrated with Jacob Murphy because don't get me wrong, he's had good performances this season. He has, and I've got a lot of time from him as well. You know, fan of the club since he's a kid, and I do. Some of his performances are so mind-numbingly frustrating because you see the same mistakes over and over again. Um, there's always you compare him and Miggy, which I know Miggy is actually the next person we're going to discuss. Actually, um, he obviously had the injury, the shoulder injury as well. Jacob Murray's a funny one for me. Um, I'm going to go 6.5 for Jacob Murphy, but I just feel like if he was just a little bit more switched on in certain places, certain positions on the pitch, like about 2/3 into his own and 2/3 into the opposition's half, because he almost gets stage fright. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like he gets stage fright in certain positions. Um, but yeah, he has had good moments. He's had some poor games as well. But I think that's just gonna be typical Jacob Murphy. Lee, I think this is again another probably a hard one to score really. But
For me, it's a bit easier.
do you think?
He's had a better season than Almiron, so 7 out of 10. I think if I had to pick the two now, I pick Murphy over Almiron now. I think they've swapped. Look, I think it's an issue, that right wing position. I love the club to strengthen, even with Minter coming back. I still think you still need that position gone, strengthen. Sorry, and I think Miggy can leave, but I'll score him a 7 because there is times where he'll just whip a good. I think he is improved in his crossing. I do, but there's also other times where you're like, God, that's awful. That's absolutely shocking. But then the next game, he'll whip in a couple of beautiful balls, and maybe people aren't on the end of it. But for Bantners, obviously, James has mentioned in the comments as well. He's right up there. But I'll score him a 7. But it's just his inconsistency and the fact that he has obviously picked up that shoulder injury, which I thought he'd be out a lot longer, to be fair, than initially first thought. But 7.
Sam, do you think with Jacob Murphy? Because the only thing I will say to give him a bit of credit, he has a good relationship with Isak. You see that on the pitch in terms of certain runs. I think of the goal against Sheffield United where he plays a lovely through ball into the path, and there has been little moments over the last season and a bit with Isak. He has that kind of a little bit of understanding. I think it's not to the level of say a Joe Willock, for example, but he has improved playing with better players. I know that sounds like an easy thing to say, but it's actually doing it as well. Where do you stand on him?
His windpipe? No, I'm joking. I love Jacob Murphy. Look, he was all of us for that first Champions League game at the San Siro, wasn't he? His face lit up hearing that Champions League music in the flesh for the first time. His numbers when in the starting 11 are actually really positive. And Newcastle do well when he starts. He continues to kind of surprise in many ways because you'd have never in a million years thought he would have outlasted Saint-Maximin. You'd have never in a million years think he would, he's probably going to outlast Almiron as well.
Fraser.
Fraser, yeah, who was, yeah, exactly. He's 29 now. He's not a kid anymore. He frustrates me when he cuts inside and goes narrow. I think all of his positive work comes from when he stays out wide.
And he's got pace though, Sam, to do that, which I find sometimes just do
He
that.
does, and he gets assists. His he has his numbers stack up. Let's not get carried away though. I mean, I'm going 7 for Murphy for you, Scorley, but he's no world beater. Right wing, I think it's fair to say for all of us and many watching as well. I would say right wing is probably the priority this summer. Um, he's. Would you keep him around as a squad player? Probably. He's improved lots from when he first signed for us. Um, he's been on a proper journey with it. Loans at Sheffield Wednesday, West Brom. Coming back. But he's effective when out wide. That game against West Ham when he was coming in narrow, um, him and Kraft just got it all wrong on that right hand side, which contributed
Mm-hmm.
heavily to going 3-1 down. When he actually moved back to right back was when he stayed wide and was pretty effective after that. I get your frustrations with him, but when you're a winger, that's always going to happen. He's no world beater, so he's always going to blow hot and cold in essence. But he's done well this season. It's been another positive season for him. Really, he's got some goals, he's got assists. What more can you really get from a Jacob Murphy?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully, a bit more positivity. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. Be a bit more positive in your play because you've got it. You've got the ability. You've got the ability. I still think he needs to work on his crossing with his left foot, at times. But when he cuts back in a little bit, but look, on the whole, when we look back at it, he will say very good servant for Newcastle United. So, but there's still more to come. Still more to come. I am going to have to go and get my charger because my phone this was beeped up before saying it's low battery. So just so I don't lose everybody.
Amateur.
Lee, I'm going to let you start off with Miguel Almiron because this is a player that some people say rightly, some people say wrongly. You know, he should be leaving the football club. Doesn't get enough credit. I know certainly there's a big debate in our WhatsApp group with a certain Adam Phillips as well, which I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning. Actually, just while we've got talking about Adam, hopefully his daughter's a lot better because she had a little bit of an accent, which hopefully she's on the mend too as well. So yeah, hopefully she's okay. But just talking about Miguel Almiron, Lee, um, is this the time? Is this the time? Just the right time just to go, do you know what? Thank you so much for what you've given Newcastle, Miggy, because you have given us some big moments. But we kind of need to move you on. But I'm going to go and get me charged while you answer. I'm going to hear that in me yes. I'll be 2 minutes.
I just hope Jane Atlanta's not listening to this next part. 4 out of 10. I think he's awful. What does he bring? There's a joke, as we say, he runs a lot, but what does he bring? I mean, his goals numbers against his second choice to Murphy now, and we try to get him out on January, allegedly, I must say, to Al Shabaab Kebab out in Saudi. Didn't want that. I just hasn't got a right foot. That Champions League moment when it's literally on the line, if that goes in. Hey man. I just when I see him in the lineup, I go, oh, no. It's just we've gone past him now. He's hung around for too long. I don't think his game's improved. He had that purple patch last season, the first half of the season, where it was just unreal. Like, wow, where's this been? But he's gone back, and a lot of players, when Eddie Howe's come in, have actually improved the game. He hasn't. He had that little purple patch, but he's gone back to what he was like under Bruce. I don't think there's any quality there at all. I don't even think he's a Premier League player. I really didn't. And
Well,
I
that's a
think
bit strong.
no, I think he has to leave. I think he does. I think he's really poor. 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, he probably does have to leave, but to say he's not a Premier League player is probably a touch on the harsh side. Let's not
You
forget.
think he is a Premier League player? I didn't.
Let's not forget both games against PSG. He was electric. I think he's still quite effective off the bench. I don't like him in the starting lineup anymore. I'll happily concede that was. And your mark of 4 is pretty reasonable. I was going to go 5. Um, yeah, it is time for him. It is time to move on. Like we were saying when discussing Murphy, right wing is the priority for me this summer. He's had some decent performances. He's always been frustrating. When he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, he's fucking awful.
That's
Um,
too much.
and the lack of a right foot cost us really in the Champions League for all his good work against Paris. Um, it's time for him to depart, unfortunately. He's been a lot of fun over the years, but yeah, it's probably 5 out of 10 for me for Miggy.
I've listened to what you've said, the pair of you about Mickey. It's always difficult doing these because you can only think of like recent memories. But when you look back at the start of the season, brilliant against Aston Villa, brilliant against Paris Saint Germain, scoring that first goal. Um, Sheffield United, I know everybody had a great game against Sheffield United, but he took his goal really well against Sheffield United as well. Um, I, I I do agree. It is time. It is time for Miguel Almiron to go, and I do think he's probably our most sellable asset in terms of maybe him and Callum Wilson. Again, Wilson's only got a year left, a little bit older, but he's English. He might get you a few more quid. Um, I'm going to go 5 for Miggy because he actually did start the season pretty well. Um, the only thing I would add is that it's the same reasons every single season why Newcastle fans have had enough with him. No right foot, and when he has used his right foot, bizarrely, it's not been that bad.
The
I know,
confidence thing.
I know it's rare, but it hasn't been that bad. I do think that defensively, he does a lot of work. He does do a lot of work. I just think for a player with the ability that Almiron has, and I think he is a very good player at times, he should be giving you more goals and more assists. And
Yeah,
I'm looking at what he's contributed. I think this is the debate that we had in the WhatsApp group. I think he's had like 6 assists in the Premier League since he's been at Newcastle. That's not good enough for someone as good as Miguel Almiron can be. 6 assists in the Premier League, and he's been here since 2019.
I think he's missed
That
Trippier's guidance.
possibly, possibly, but you look at him, you look at that purple patch that he had um, midway through last season. No fear whatsoever. And like I think the game against Villa where he scores and curls it in the Gallagher, what a day that was. The game against Southampton at St Mary's, he was
Fulham.
out. Fulham, that goal that was outstanding.
yeah,
I
a
just,
brilliant put a couple of purple patches, but that's it with
yeah,
him. And
yeah.
that was the case at Atlanta as well. He would have purple patches, but I think it was a bit harsh to say he's not a Premier League player. And obviously the kind of almost lazy link, if you like, is that for to the Saudi clubs. But if you were a Leicester, if you were an Ipswich, someone like that, you could maybe take a gamble on an Almiron and he'd do your job. How much would you sell him for? 10, 15?
I think he has to leave because he's only got 1 year left, hasn't he?
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, again, I think the club would. I think the club would do the deal. I don't think Eddie Howe would necessarily do a deal, though.
Oh, I
If
think
I'm
he would.
being honest. See,
I
that's
think
it. See, I don't know. I just feel like the current crop of players that he's got, I just think, like I said, he even kind of admit he didn't really want ASM to go, but he kind of had to bring in a Harvey Barnes. Really,
yeah,
let's be honest.
I would be shocked if we didn't have a new right winger this
Hmm.
summer,
Yeah, so would I.
and
So would
I'd
I.
be concerned as well
Hmm.
if we didn't.
Get your comments in. I think I can see a few comments from James saying maybe he's a player who feels like he's not cashed in on his talent still at ASM. Andy saying that Ipswich are interested apparently in Miguel Almiron. Yeah, I'm sure Miguel Almiron will get a few mentions between now and the end of August. I'm sure that will be a hot topic. Next player on the list is Joseph Willock. Again, I'm going to mention that word injuries. Um, Barely played, really. Barely played. He's had moments, but the Achilles injury that he's picked up just hasn't really gone away. Um, it's just not been this season for Joe Willock, which has been really real shame because he had such a great season the year before. Um, Obviously, he picked up the hamstring injury against Leicester, I believe, obviously the last home game of the season. Was it Leicester or Brighton? One of the two, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's just seems to be one injury, then another injury. Just hasn't managed to get that bit of momentum. I'll go 5 out of 10 just because he hasn't played the games really. I think I'm just going to go straight down the middle with that one. Sam, I'll start with you on Joe Willock. What I'm going to say to you though is that I know everyone talks about Miggy and possibly one of the most valuable assets, but if a big offer comes in for Joe Willock, which is unlikely, do Newcastle cash in?
It'd be one to think about, but I think you could really make an argument for non-applicable for Willock this season. It's been just such a write-off for him. I thought we've really missed him at times. Actually, I thought we'd missed his dynamism and his speed from midfield at times. Um, Looked great when he was part of that win at Old Trafford in the cup. Um, Looked great when he was back in the side in the Premier League as well, but then that kind of faded a bit, and then came another injury, and it's just so frustrating for everyone. Because again, very very talented player, tremendous season last season, but it's just not happened at all. It's absolutely gutting. So I would actually say I don't necessarily disagree with you 5 out of 10, but I think there's a big case to say non-applicable for Joe Willock.
Where do you stand on it, Lee?
Yeah, I'll match Sam. I think it's not applicable. I think if you played a few more extra games, I think so. I think you didn't even. You got 7 or 8 starts, 9 maximum. I don't think he's played more than that. I don't think
Such a
he's come.
write-off.
I don't think he's come off the bench that often either because he started the majority. And I think there's talent there. I wouldn't personally sell him. I think our centre midfield that we'll have going into next season is set. I don't think it needs
If,
strengthening.
even if you put 40 million on the table or 35
No,
million on the table,
I think you've got 6 midfielders there. I think we're all right there. Tonali coming back as well. But I would say non-applicable. He's talented. He scores goals. He brings the ball up. He helps on that left-hand side. Just needs to stay clear of injuries.
Lee, I'll let you continue with Sean Longstaff again. This is a player that's divided opinions just with the three of us. I think I've always been a bit unsure. I don't know whether Sean was ever should have been given a new contract. I was probably leaning on the side of yes, just because I think he just about warranted it at the time. I know Sam's a big fan, and Lee, you kind of been the opposite. Um, but again, it's been a Sean season. If I'm honest, good games, bad games. But when you look at stats, 8 goals for him as well this season. You've got to argue that he's had a better season than some would like to give credit for, because I think we've mentioned this before. He hasn't got the sexiest name, but he does a job that other players don't like to do in that Newcastle midfield. But what would you say? Because you've obviously watched him a lot more this season.
This is a tough one. This is where I'm kind of on the fence with it. I have been critical of him because I think it's been warranted where sloppy in possession, but obviously the fact that he's openly admitted that he's not fully fit, and again it's the same old question with injuries: why you're playing someone who's got a bad ankle or whatever. 8 goals is impressive for. He's not really a box to box midfielder either. You'd probably say he's probably more defensive than offensive, and he does a lot of the work which you don't see off camera. Because you see him like he's always. If you look at Shaw Longstaff, he's always panting because he's red, isn't he? He's red of running
Mm-hmm.
around. Love to see his miles what he does each game because he's got to be right up there. But I don't think it's been a great season for him, so I'll be 6 out of 10 for him.
Oh,
Um,
I'll,
I don't think that's a bad score for him. I think that's about right.
I'll,
Sean
I'll say
Longstaff.
yeah. I'll say my 50 pence, and then I'll let
You look
Sam
at the
talk.
comments now coming through. There's like people are
7, 6, 4. Like everybody's kind of
who said 4?
the special Jose. Longstaff 4 out of 10 will be a squad
Yeah.
player next season. I'll say mine, 'cause I know Sam, I know you'll have a passionate
someone
defence
will
for
give him a
Sean
9.
Longstaff. I'm going 7 out of 10 for Sean Longstaff. I think you can't ignore the 8 goals. I think that's very, very good for a midfielder. I think we're going to be talking about other players that have scored less goals and could probably get high marks.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to recognise that. I do think that the errors that he does make in his game, we've seen less of this season. But because Sean Longstaff isn't called Bruno Guimaraes, and so because Sean Longstaff's not called Joe Linton, and because Sean Longstaff's not called Who else do you want to say?
I disagree. It's
Other players. I think Sean's. I don't think he's had a great season, but I think when you take the injury side of things as well, if he has been playing for an injury, and I can't understand why you lie about that. I think 7 out of 10 is just about maybe even slightly harsh because you got to think it's a good return for what he's done this season, and he has been generally fit for most of the season. I don't think he's missed many games at all. Um, Still think there's still the odd mistake in him, but we've seen less of that this season. Sam, I know you've very much been on the side of Sean Longstaff needs to stay at Newcastle United. He may not be in your best midfield when everybody's available, but we need him around there because he certainly brings something to this team. What have you made of them from this season?
He absolutely does bring something to this team, and if you cast your mind back early doors um, this season, there was something not quite clicking in the midfield. Tonali was obviously taking time to bed in, as some Italians do, coming over from Serie A to the Premier League.
Do you say
Um,
bedding or betting?
Bed in,
Oh,
you
good.
facetious twit. And then obviously with the Ferrari around the betting thing, horrendous for Tonali, which we'll obviously come on to. But Longstaff got reintroduced into the side and made things tick again. The midfield has struggled at times this season because it's been so changeable because of, yes, that word again, injuries. Have a shot. Um, Longstaff's played through the pain barrier. Is it 8? I could have sworn it was 9. It might have been in all competitions or whatever. It obviously got that Champions League goal against PSG. Um, but yeah, a good return from the centre of midfield, playing through the pain barrier. Yes, you can sometimes dwell on the ball a bit too long, and yes, you can sometimes expect a foul when there's not one there. But the way he was targeted at times this
He is the
season,
scapegoat. He is the scapegoat.
I just thought was absolutely disgusting.
But you
Uh,
don't notice with the scapegoat, it's always the Geordies.
yeah,
Mm,
Because Dan
Yeah,
Burn
I
had it
agree.
earlier in the season. Paul Dummett had it in his career.
yeah.
When we're going to mention Ellie Anderson still hasn't scored a goal for Newcastle, and the longer that keeps on, say like it's still being played, people will target him next, and again unfairly in my opinion. I do.
If Sean Longstaff was a Brazilian called Savio Longino,
I know.
you would not have had a bit of criticism. People would just brush it off and go, "Oh well, he's that type of player."
Yeah.
I'm scoring Longstaff an 8. And I don't care. Come and get me in the comments. What are you going to do about it? But yeah, I think he's a vital cog in our squad. I don't disagree with. I think Lee that said that he won't be in our first choice midfield next season. Absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. Um, Good squad player, local lad, would absolutely die for that shirt. And
Hmm.
I think he's still important and played a part. He's been on a real up and down roller coaster at times through having that support under Rafa, having his head turned by Manchester United, um,
Bruce
mental
comments.
mental health issues. Out of the side under Bruce, playing awfully, and part of this resurgence under Howe again, playing in the Champions League for your hometown club, scoring in the Champions League for your hometown club. Great return from midfield. I think he's had a good season overall.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. So, well, Lee's gone 6, I've gone 7, Sam's gone 8, so we've met in the middle and gone 7 for Sean Longstaff. Next on the list, Bruno Guimaraes. Um, I'll start on Bruno. I still think at this moment in time he's our only world class talent. I think Alexander Isak is becoming closer and closer and closer and closer to joining that particular group at Newcastle United. But he is just so vital to how Newcastle United play football. I was so worried that he was going to get a 2 game ban at some point, but that is probably a massive credit and a massive plus to Bruno Guimaraes is the fact that he's managed to be disciplined enough to go through 11, 12 games without getting a booking. Very, very well done. Very, very well done. Some really outstanding performances um, throughout the season in different competitions, and if anyone deserves a trophy at Newcastle with his performances, he does. And I think we've probably got one more season to try and get that. If we don't finish in the top four, it's going to be really, really interesting. But the Nottingham Forest game that we were all at the City Ground, he was absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And if we didn't have Bruno, we weren't winning that game. That's how important he was, and that's how good he was on that particular day. Just for his overall impact on the Newcastle United team, I'm going 9 out of 10 for Bruno this season. I just think he's not had many bad games for Newcastle this season, and he's just absolutely vital to how we play. Lee, I'll let you kick things off with Bruno.
10. Maybe a theme with these 4 players in this thumbnail. No spoilers there. Makes with tick, scores goals for fun. No, sorry, not scores goals for fun. Scores great goals. Nearly got caught out. Can turn defence into attack. I love the fact his signal around his head. He knows what's going on all the way around. Whereas he obviously mentioned Sean's criticism. Bruno doesn't do that. He knows how to hold a player off. Just a special talent, and obviously all these links currently the minute to Arsenal or what have you. That's because he's world class talent. That's what it is. I think he'll give one more season. I would love to see him get into double figures. I think he has the ability to do that. Whether he's got the license to play further forward next season, we'll have to see. But what a talent! 10 out of 10 for me. Unbelievable.
Sam, the man with the magic hats.
That's me.
I know.
I'm going to say hats don't suit me.
Yeah, but I don't know. Could you not pull off a bucket hat?
I wear a flat cap from time to time when I'm on a race course, but that's about it.
Yeah. Bruno Guimaraes, discuss.
Simply the best midfielder we've had in a generation.
I agree.
I don't think we called it really early doors with him, and it felt at the time really dirty to do so, because you want to have that respect for Rob Lee, you want to have that respect for Kabay, Gary Speed, but he's just the best midfielder we've seen in our lifetime at Newcastle United. We can't live without him as a team on the pitch. The way, like you say, he managed that threat of a 2-match suspension was remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
It was rare.
Quick
Not
question,
many
Sam.
players can do that, can manage their game in that way and still channel their passion. Bruno's an emotional guy. I'm baffled as to why you're both saying, "Oh, we've got to give him one more season."
No.
Fuck that.
I think he'll give
No, no,
us.
no, 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 no. If he stays this summer, this month, he's in it for the long haul. Unless we have an absolute shocker next season and we're back to 14th or whatever. He's here for the. Is it just me that thinks he's here for the long haul? And he's an emotional guy, is Bruno. He's not your typical footballer. I'm going to have egg on my face if he does leave this month, and it's going to be a horrendous month for these sort of rumours, because he's going to be linked with every major club in Europe and then some. But for me this season, he would probably finish joint second for me for player of the season. So I'm going 9.5 for Bruno. He is just phenomenal. I ran out of superlatives after that Leicester game 2 seasons ago. So I don't know how I've coped since, but he's just so good. He's world class.
He is that good. That is that good.
And he gets into any team.
Does
Any
he get
team.
into does he get into Man City's team?
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy.
De Bruyne.
Easy.
Yeah.
Rodri behind him.
What I
He's
would
been
like
playing
to
better.
see, though, I really want to see this next season, I want him on that right hand side of the midfield three. I
Both of
don't
them.
want to see him as the deep line 6 anymore. I would rather try Tonali there and put Bruno up to that right hand side, which is where he actually played when he first signed, because he can be a goal threat, a really serious goal threat, as we've seen. But yeah, for me, he gets. I don't want to say anything, but he could slot into Real Madrid's midfield and replace Toni Kroos. No bother. He is that good.
We will see. We will see. Next up is the £60 million man from Milan, who we all thought was going to be absolutely outstanding for the whole season, and he was all right for the first 10 games. And then there was a thing called a betting scandal, and we all thought, nah, he'd be fine. There's nothing to all it. And then he's got a massive gambling addiction and is out for 10 months. Sandro Tonali, Lee Lawler. I know you're not the betting man, and Sam Milner is, but could you have predicted that?
No, nobody could, of course not. Uh, well, how would you want to score this one? Because this isn't your normal player. But when he did play, I think had a great start. And he scored against Villa. I think he got harshly criticised by Craig Hope on social media, saying this player, that player, and he cost this millions. Like, wait a minute, he's only been in the door 4 or 5 games. Um, do you look at it and think, right, okay, it's non-applicable because he only played like something like 12 games. I think something like 8 of them were starts. Or do you look at it and think, well, that's just stupid what he's done? So you score him a 0 out of 10 because of the situation. It's how you just want to do it. I would either give him a non-applicable or I would have to do it a 0 to one of the
I'm
two.
at, I'm at non-applicable just because of the fact that what was it, October, beginning of November, we lost him.
Very early on, October.
Like that is just it's you couldn't no one could have predicted. I still people forget. Everybody remembers the Aston Villa game at the first game of the season. And he was the best player in the park against Aston Villa, in my opinion. I know he's like had back moment in the second half as well, but I just thought he was outstanding that day. But everybody forgets how good he was against Liverpool. He was absolutely outstanding for 80 minutes, and then Eddie Howe takes him off, and we just crumbled. Like I couldn't believe. I wasn't surprised he got substituted just because he's still learning how the English game was, but he was absolutely outstanding that day, and we just took him off, and we just didn't recover. Did not recover. But I'd go non-applicable. Sam, where are you at? Are you non-applicable as well, or
Yeah, I am. I 100% am. I, a few things surrounding Tonali that I don't like. I don't like the argument, and of course these arguments are being made online by cretins on Twitter, but I'll address some of them. Um, Slagging off the club for not doing their due diligence. If you've got a gambling problem, which is so serious that you're using unregulated markets, you ain't telling a fucking soul other than your inner circle. So no fucking scout, director of football, whoever is going to know a Scooby about what you're punting on. Horrendous situation. Really, really difficult when And don't get me wrong, like because you both know Tonali was my number one dream signing for last summer, and I got it 2 seasons in a row. I got it. Ridiculous. Third in a row for
Who's his dream one this summer?
Kubo, but we haven't been linked with him. But yeah, horrendous situation. He has, he is getting the help he needs.
Took a wage cut.
Took a wage cut, which is the right thing to do. What I will say is, he needs to hit the fucking ground running next season, and he has a lot. He's indebted to the club, to the fans that still sing his songs. Um, but yeah, that Liverpool game, he was exceptional, and had lost us that game really, didn't he? By making those two subs, taking him and Gordon off. Um, yeah, big season next season for Tonali. Seems to have had the support of his teammates, settled in the area, so those are kind of positives. But yeah, look, if he's the same player coming back, he's world class in waiting, if you like, and he will get there. I've no doubt about it.
I don't think we'll see him properly until October next season.
No, probably not. And I want to see him. I do want to see him.
That's
And
fitness.
I want to see him in the six as well. To be honest, I want to see him.
Same. I just think with you can't even play in any pre-season games. And yes, you can play close friendlies and what have you, but it's not the same as proper match fitness. So you might get a few sub appearances and probably not get in the side until October.
yeah. And the thing is, he's going to miss the first two Premier League games, which it's not the end of the world. We can live with that. I think he's back on the 27th of August, which is a Tuesday. So even if Newcastle were the Monday night game on, say, the second game of the season, you would still miss that by a day. But yeah, two more games for Tonali, and then you're going to see him back in a Newcastle shirt, hopefully. So be interested to see what happens there, but non-applicable for the Italian stallion. We've got Harvey Barnes next, and this was a sign of divided opinion at the beginning of the season. People were saying that Harvey Barnes over Alan Saint-Maximin. I'm not too sure, but Harvey Barnes has probably played less games. Well, he has played less games than Alan Saint-Maximin having Saint-Maximin's last season. And I'm telling you now, Harvey Barnes has probably got a better return in terms of goals and assists. And I think that's the main reason why Alan Saint-Maximin was sold and Harvey Barnes was brought in. I think if you're comparing the two players just on individual talent, I think ASM is the better player just on individual talent, but he just doesn't deliver the results and performances in terms of the stats to back it up. Lee, I'll let you start off with Harvey Barnes. Some great moments, but another injury at Sheffield United. It just seemed like, I don't know how he picked it up against Sheffield United. Like me and you were both there that day, and it just looked a
Poor
bit
little toe, or
strange.
his big toe, whatever it
I
is.
know it was just really strange, isn't it? Like no one really saw how he got injured, but yeah. But I would say on the whole, an okay signing. Again, needs to hit the ground running when he comes back. I think he just needs to
See the
stay in
best
the
next
team.
season. Big fan of
Yeah,
him. 14 goals or something for Leicester. For Leicester side,
yeah.
Gandoon. Brilliant. And you've seen already his goals ratio to minutes must be quite high this season just gone, because obviously the fact he didn't really get a look in when he picked up the injury at Sheffield United away, he wasn't back till what, early February, was it? Something like that. But then contributed to goals, scored on his debut, scored on his in the Salah Cup on his debut, so he's got goals in him. And I think that's a weapon that we can use next season. So this is a tough one as well, but because of the situation that he's missed a big chunk of an injury, in a toe injury, it's not like it hasn't done an ACL and all that, but because of his contributed of goals, I'll go 7.
Please, Sam, has that been a bit generous?
It's not like
Mm, how many starts has he had? Because there's even an argument with Barnes to make it non-applicable. But I don't disagree with the 7, to be honest. Yeah, he's got good numbers, as you say. He delivers, whether it's goals or assists. He gets them, which, like you say, and you're right to say as well. He's not as exciting as St Maximin, but it's the ultimate objective in football is to score more goals than your opponent. So you're more likely to do that with Barnes in your side than you are with Maxi. Um, yeah, I was one that was quite not critical of the signing because I wasn't. He's a very talented player. Um, price tag for me, probably a shade too high, but this is the world we live in, and I'm a stingy bugger. Um, not the fastest for a winger, which again is okay. It's not a criticism. Nobby Solano wasn't overly quick, and he was amazing. So
it was Matt Ritchie.
exactly. So it's not a criticism, but has made a big impact in games like Luton at home, which was a stupid game of football, and obviously getting a brace against West Ham to turn that game around, which is absolutely incredible. Needs a big season, needs a run in the team next season, but how does he fit into that side when you know your player of the season is in his position? Really, um, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, but um, he's an asset for sure. That injury was utterly bizarre, and to keep him out so long, again, is frustrating for everyone: fans, players, coaches, manager, everyone. Um, but yeah, it's a big season, like it is for a lot of our squad next year. So watch this space. There is plenty more to come from him, I think.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 for Harvey Barnes. That goal against West Ham. Like, I know he scored two, but the second goal against West Ham, what a moment that was! I think Sam gave me the biggest hug I've ever had in my life. And I've got John next to me. John, big shout out to John, who's just to the left of me.
What a
Like he's a,
sandwich that is, you
well,
lucky boy.
John's the same height as you, isn't he? Pretty much,
Is this
if
John
not.
Sinclair you're on about here?
No, 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 no.
No,
Ah, right. I thought,
Yeah,
okay.
No, good bloke, John. He's sat next to us for about 3 years now. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for Mr. Barnes. Next up is Elliot Anderson. Remember that poll is still live. Anthony Gordon is still leading the way. We've got a few players left to go before we end the poll. But if you want to try and change it, and you think Isak, Bruno, or Cher deserves to be player of the season, put it in the poll. But Elliot Anderson, I'll start Elliot Anderson off with. I still feel I know he got another injury, and I know we've been talking about injuries all the way through this video. Didn't help him, but I actually thought he started the season pretty well. Unlucky not to actually start the first game of the season because he played so well in pre-season. He's arguably the best player in pre-season for Newcastle, which I know is only it's not. You can't really say 100%. Oh, that's why he has to be in the team, but his performances were brilliant. Needs a goal. He's obviously got an assist or two, but he needs the goals to add to it because that's what's part of being a midfielder in the Premier League. Um, Tough one, really. Tough one, really. Mark, I think. I'm going to go 6.5. I don't think it was quite a 7. I'm going to go 6.5 for Elliot Anderson. I just think his decision making at times could be a little bit better, but I think he reads the game pretty well. So I think it's just getting those two kind of linked in pretty well, particularly going forward. But yeah, don't be afraid to have a shot from 35 yards out or 30 yards out every now and then just to kind of get that goal because it might just be something like that where it goes in and I think it'll just happen in time. But I'll go 6.5. Lee, what's your thoughts on Elliot Anderson?
Yeah, it was robbed at Forest last season. I mean, Sam are right in front of it, and that weird goal disallowed. But I didn't like him in centre midfield. I didn't. I think he's all right in centre midfield, but I want to see him further forward. I want to see him if he's allowed to play in the 10, or can he play on the left where if Gordon comes off, and I got Harvey Bond there, but his options can he go over the right? We've never really seen that. I want to see him further forward. I think he's got ability, but I would agree. I think a 6 out of 10. He's got to contribute more going forward. At the minute, this is it is his breakthrough season. Let's be honest, but injuries have hampered him. But he's still at the minute a squad player, and there's players ahead of him. And that's not a criticism. That's just because of his age, but that's the reality. If everybody's fit, Elliot Anderson might be lucky to get a place on the bench because of the whole midfield, etc. But 6 out of 10 for me. But another big season from him next season. But I'd like to see him, as I say, play further forward.
Where do you think Elliot Anderson is in the pecking order of this midfield, Sam? Because I don't think he's probably, if everybody's fit, I think there's probably 5 or 6 players in front of him.
Yeah, I don't think I think that argument's pretty diffuse now. Really, by the way, Lee Elliot has one T and not two.
I thought you
Um,
corrected us on that.
but yeah, I think the argument's pretty diffuse because it's a squad game now, and no, obviously there's no European football next season, which I'm still a bit disappointed about. He still has his role to play. I think it would have been really really frustrating for him getting that injury when he did, and then seeing Lewis Miley do his thing for so long in the team when, for all intents and purposes, that should have been him. I'm going to deploy my asterisk system again, like I did with Lewis Hall, and give Elliot Anderson a 6 with an asterisk to say there's very much more to come from him. And I agree with what the both of you said in that he needs a goal, and it just felt like it was coming. It was coming. It was just
Yeah.
if there was a few more weeks left of the season, I think he probably would have got one, whether it be a 30-yard ripper or a goal similar to the one he scored and should have been allowed at Forest last season. But yeah, for me, it's a 6 with the old asterisk of more to come.
He's the only one who didn't score from midfielder striker.
Mental. Hoping that watch us score first game of the season. That'll be the one. Sam, you've mentioned Lewis Miley, so I'll let you continue with him. Got that goal against Fulham. 17-year-old Bruno Guimaraes said some nice words about him, saying he's never seen a 17-year-old like him and called himself shit at 17. What a prospect this young man is.
Unbelievable when you really get down to the nuts and bolts of the situation. A child a child who at the time hadn't passed his driving test. He has now. Get in there. Phenomenal. The way he played in that midfield, he was chucked in there when times were so desperate. Back in the day, we may have been recalling Jeff Hendrick. We may have had to recall Isaac Hayden. The way he looked so assured, so comfortable in massive games. Game against Manchester United, he had Kobe Mainoo, who look what he's gone on to do this season, and he'd be in the squad for the Euros. Miley had him in his back pocket all game. Played at PSG. Unbelievable performance.
Man
So
City
so.
didn't he have Kovacic in his back pocket?
Oh my word! The kind of the assurance he had on the ball and the tactical awareness and um, the football brain on him that was just so beyond his years. Um, Incredible, remarkable, unbelievable. Hopefully, this injury that he had, obviously they've I expect if they really wanted to, they could have chucked him on the bench or kept him involved and managed his injury accordingly. But they've actually done the right thing this time.
Finally, it was It's probably one of the only things
Yay!
I've said.
Yeah,
You know what?
they're looking after
Yeah.
him. There's so much more to come from him. Um, what do you do with him next season?
He's in the
That's
squad.
that's the question.
That's why I do think you need to strengthen that centre mid. You've got plenty of bodies there. And remember, only playing a game a week now.
I think there's a huge argument to send him out on loan.
I don't think so.
Well,
I
no,
think
no, no. I know
injuries.
you wouldn't, and I don't expect it to be popular whatsoever. But when you really think about it, unless the
I think Elliot Anderson needs to go out and loan more than Lewis Miley.
possibly, um, possibly, I don't disagree with that. But how many games is Miley really going to feature in next season? Now Tonali's back, and only one game a week. Hopefully, no injury crises next season of note. So I don't know. There's an argument. I don't expect it to be a popular one. I'm just putting it out there. With to be honest, with our track record without going loans, you would want him to stay in and around the first team squad anyway. Scoring wise, you don't want to get too carried away. But then again, that assist for Isaac against Chelsea, neat little finish against Fulham. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself with him, just because of bringing that age factor with him. So I don't know, 7.5, something like that. No,
It's gone quiet, Johnny. Your audio. Yeah, he's got no audio. Whilst Johnny sorts out, I'll match that time. I'll go a 7. Um, I think for me, I've mentioned this once or twice on video. I think you had a fantastic start, and funny enough, because of injuries. So because of injuries, he was put in the limelight, and then I think it's a stage where it was a time where we couldn't refresh that midfield three, and it showed a little bit. And I think it's time he was just like the game was passing by, and that's not because of him. Just had nobody to change it. And I was saying on the video, goes, he looks knackered. He's a kid, and the initial burst was absolutely brilliant, and then the games were passing him by a little bit because we just couldn't freshen it up. And you're asking a kid to play 2-3 times a week without any changing it. So probably why I've dropped it a little bit, and the fact that he picked up an injury towards the end. But I think a 7 is a good 7 considering.
yeah, it's a 7's a great score for a kid.
Yeah, the thing is that goal against Fulham will do in the world of good. But I think the fact we're playing with the likes of a Bruno, the likes of Longstaff, in terms of like a mentor from in terms of a Longstaff point of view, just seeing how he's kind of developed through the years. I think he was almost learning on the job in terms of being a Premier League midfielder, which at 17 is just remarkable. Let's be
Well, what
brutally.
were you doing at 17?
Don't
I
ask
was,
me that.
I was in my last year of college at the time. But yeah,
I was drinking gallons of wine at college and fornicating with my classmates, and he's playing in the Premier League with
I
Bruno
was
Guimaraes.
I was having babies.
there you go. There you go.
Not
Paul,
physically. Not
Paul,
not physically. That's what I was doing at 17. But do you know what it is? I'll say something here. Lewis Miley might take Sean Longstaff's role in the next couple of years.
We'll see. We will see. Just a quick mention on Joe White, non applicable for Joe White. Just wanted to mention, a bit like Alex Murphy. I think, again, the fact that there's no European football, I would say it's kind of like a make or break year for him in the sense that if he's not going to get any sort of game time, get him out on loan and get him some games and get him some minutes, a bit like what Barley's did back in the day. Just get some minutes, play games, play championship, even lower end championship. Just get minutes, get 46 games into your system. So yeah, just a quick mention on Joe White, non applicable for him.
he did well at Crewe. He did very well at Crewe.
Yeah, he did. Last midfielder, we've got four players in the manager. So Joe Linton. Oh, injuries. What a first half of the season. Battered the Maximus by himself, if I'm being honest. If he played the full 90 minutes, the worst case scenario, it would have been 3-0 Newcastle. He was a man possessed that day. So difficult because he had a good first half of the season. Just injuries killed him a little bit. I'm going to match his number. I'm going to go 7 out of 10.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Because the fact of his injuries, I think, missed him, Dialli. I think all those midfielders, and even throw Tonali in there, we missed Joe Linton the most out of the people that aren't there. Because Bruno's been ever present, and I think it's Joe Linton we miss more than Willock, more than Tonali, because he brings that coverness, directness, strength. And do you know what I just miss? When he starts on someone on the touchline, I just love it.
he's a
I
beast.
wait for it at some point because you'll know fine well he'll come over, and Fabian Schär's starting to date a little bit. They'll come over, and Sammy, you were talking about the last few months, the shithousery that way. Joe Linton, he does that, and he'll push a player over and effing. I mean, I wouldn't get up against him. You've seen the size of him. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, greatly missed, and obviously he's got
Yeah.
these call up to Brazil, didn't he? And
Mhm.
scored on his debut. Then he's only just missed out on the Copa America just because he's just come back.
Yeah. Alluded to it before when we were talking about Dan Burn, really. How much of a miss he is on that left-hand side of the midfield trio. Great news that he signed a new contract. Massive, and I think that goes a long way. Goes a long way to keeping Bruno here as well. They're best pals. He got married last week or earlier this week, didn't he? So
Yeah,
congratulations to him. There's some excellent content on his Instagram of,
his son looks a good player as well, by the way.
yeah, but him and Bruno, well, they must have been pissed off. They must have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fantastic. But yeah, just absolute 16 and a half stone of pure Brazilian prime rib. And yeah, the game management, which we've missed a lot. You're rightly, I've said it a lot this season. He will be that one to go down, to break up the play, to stop an opposition's momentum. Um, but just when I think of Joe Linton this season, I think of the feeling I had when he scored against Milan at home when it was on.
Mhm.
Get out of that group, and we've seen what Dortmund and PSG went on to do in that competition. And the way that game bothers me more than the Carabao Cup final.
Oh, no. I'm still not over the Carabao Cup final.
I'm not over that Milan game and how we lost it. I just it bothers me more than the cup final. I can't believe we didn't make it out of that group from the position we were in. Obviously, the incident at PSG didn't help with that late penalty, which was just obviously bollocks. But yeah, the way we folded in that game against Milan from a winning position just absolutely knocks the living s out of me. And it's just a case of what could have been, really. Saying that with the injuries,
Would
we
you sell
wouldn't
him
have
for
had
10 million?
we wouldn't have had much of a squad to play in those knockout games, would we?
No. Would you sell him for 10 million?
No, but you would have done.
I know. Would have
And
done.
I said I'd keep him because what did I say? And to be fair, I'm not bigging this point up too much, but because we all slagged him off to the hilt before. But I just thought quietly, because I didn't want to say it loudly because there was a 99% chance I would look very stupid, but the 1% wins sometimes. That there might just have been a bit of the John Dahl Thomason about him, in that there was a player in there somewhere, and who knew that it was an absolute beast of a centre midfielder. So, and he's a pivotal cog in our team. He's so important for us.
Yeah, definitely. Right, Anthony Gordon, you're right. Lee is next. He's probably the player of the season.
Do you
Simple as
want me to
that.
go again?
Yeah.
10. Matching it, 10. How can you get it? It struggled when he first came in last season, didn't he? Settled in, but you've got to give players time. So what a season, and it's just like the goals, the assists, coming in that left flank. I don't like him up top. I don't like him. I've said that a few times. I think he's wasted. I understand because of the injuries to the other two, but maybe you could put Harvey Barnes there instead and keep Gordon out on the left, because I think Gordon's a waste up top. But what a season, man! And obviously we'll see him in St James's Park, and he'll get a great reception.
Well, he's out. He's injured. He's not
Oh,
playing.
is that confirmed? Because I seen it was a
Confirmed
rumor,
by
wasn't
Southgate.
it? Ugh,
Yeah,
well,
Southgate's no Eddie Howe, is he? When Southgate says someone's injured,
that's
he's
a shame.
injured.
That's a shame because we would have been right next to when he stand. But what a season, man! And obviously you look at especially the Gary Neville overlap. If anyone hasn't seen it, urges to watch it. Just his mindset is absolutely brilliant, and nobody really knew that he does like meditation and stuff like that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff, and just the way he cuts in, and he gets you. He's a player that gets you off the feet. Different to ASM, where ASM's like flashy, but Gordon's just direct, and he runs at you, and he's a pest, isn't he? That's what he is. But he's our pest,
Yeah.
and brilliant. 10 out of
Yeah.
10.
I'm going to join you on 10 out of 10, Lee,
Finally, someone else.
because the reason why I will, and he is my player of the season. What do you ask from your wingers at the beginning of the season? Goals and assists, and he's got 10 of each. That tells me that you've done what you wanted, what we've brought you to do. There was massive pressure coming on in this season. He got the goal against Chelsea, and I think that kind of spurred him on. And you even saw it in the interview that he did with Dan King after the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge, where we all just went for a great day out in the sun. One of the best away days I've ever been to, I may add. But he took that into the Euros, got player of the tournament. England went on to win the Euros, and he's just been outstanding. I don't think I can picture a game this season where I've gone, oh, Gordon was absolutely rubbish today. I can't physically remember me saying that. He's been absolutely outstanding. Every time he's got the ball, particularly St James's Park, down that left-hand side, you think he is going to cause damage. He's won us penalties. He's won us dangerous free kicks. He's got defenders sent off. He's got goals. He's got assists. He's pissed off Everton fans because he's been that good.
Every
He's
week.
been
Every
he's
week.
exactly he's been the full package. That again, the overlap interview, I think, showed probably other fans from other clubs how switched on this kid is, and he will go to the very very top. Hopefully, that's with Newcastle United, because if he is and he does, he's gonna have an excellent career. And I'm so pleased he's proved the doubt was wrong. I was probably a little bit of a doubt when we signed him. Again, maybe more for the fee more than the player. But you know what? Absolutely fantastic signing. 10 out of 10. Anything to add, Sam, on Gordon?
Not really. Clean sweep. 10 out of 10 for me as well. Yeah, player of the season, undoubtedly. Um, Still young. There's still more to come from him, really. I was sceptical when we signed him. I thought we'd got it wrong and I thought we'd overpaid. But it looks a shrewd piece of business now. Um, Fantastic player, and his directness forces defenders into mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the
He's won
press.
us. He's won us loads of penalties this season. Um,
Which probably aren't clear cut penalties. He's been very clever with them. And that's
he
a
has,
skill.
yeah, he has very much so. I think you make a great point, Johnny, as well, about getting that goal at Chelsea on the final day of last season. The previous season, the fourth season
Yeah.
when we finished fourth. Got that monkey off his back. Um, Obviously went with the England under 21s and has never looked back from there, really. He's been absolutely superb from the get-go, was brilliant against Aston Villa on the first day of the season. Yeah,
Didn't have the summer off.
yeah, it's just been brilliant. 10 out of 10.
Absolutely brilliant. Oh, it's outstanding. Sam, I'll let you start off with. We've got two strikers left. I'll let you start with Callum Wilson.
Oh,
Is this Callum Wilson's last season at Newcastle United? Have we just seen him play his last season at the club, or do you think 1 year left on the contract, one game a week, is it worth just keeping him?
I think he sees out his contract. I
I agree.
don't. I don't think there's a. I don't think there's a massive sell on value. Um, Age is a factor against him. Obviously, he's still lightly raced for what, a 32-year-old because of all of his injuries. The frustration's boiled over with him a bit with fans this season because we know how good he is, um, and the fact that he's missed so much of this season has cost us dearly. When you think we were only 8 points off top four,
No.
and we've got nothing to show for it because of Man United winning the FA Cup. Really, really frustrating. Uh, Brings in the argument of having a third striker because I agree with Lee. I don't particularly like Gordon um, playing through the middle, but I know he can.
Can I throw a name to you? Because it was mentioned to me yesterday. Jamie Vardy's out of contract at Leicester. Would you sign
No,
him on a 1 year deal?
no, he's 85 years old.
But just as a third choice striker?
No.
Nah, because he wants someone who's young.
Yeah,
Really?
I was
Yeah.
just throwing it out there. Just someone said it in one of the
Well, I've
separate videos.
caught it and I've put it in the bin. So yeah, that's the end. That's the end of that one. No, I don't think that would be a wise move at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against bringing in experienced players because let's not forget when Man City won their first Premier League, they had freaking Patrick Vieira and Frank Lampard,
Oh no.
and people are so quick to forget that. So I was thinking the other day, I wouldn't mind. I know he's
Possibly.
35. No, no, not Hossley. Royce for a year, just to be a leader in that dressing room and add some valuable experience. I wouldn't mind it at all. Um, I'm getting sidetracked. Callum Wilson. I think this is a really difficult one. A really difficult one because it just hasn't been.
7 Premier League goals for Callum Wilson this season.
How many again?
7.
7.
But his games to goals ratio is probably good.
Yeah, it
He's
is.
one
I
and two
mean,
for Newcastle in the Prem, by the way.
yeah, he is, and he's in essence a second choice striker now.
Mhm.
Outright, I think it's safe to say that. I know he's our number 9, and when fit, he's of incredible value to us on the pitch. Um,
What are you giving him?
when he's on the pitch, 7, I suppose, but it's so tricky. It's been, yeah, I mean, but we knew what we were getting. We knew this would happen, so that enhances an argument of a third striker, which I don't think will happen this summer because who do you get? And I think that's another contributing factor as to why he will see out his contract because it's going to cost an arm and a leg to replace him.
Lee, where do you stand on the Callum Wilson debate? I think in terms of the season, firstly, what do you rate him in terms of a score? But where do you stand on it in terms of next season? Do you think because I think look, he's on 88 Premier League goals. There's an argument that he could get to the 100 mark next season if he stays fit for the whole season because we've seen it. But there's just no confidence, is there really?
6 for me. 6 out of 10. 1 and 2, but it's just the availability of him. He's talented. I like him as a player. I really do. Even though he's now a second choice to Isak. And obviously the whole could you play them together? He did it towards the end, didn't he? That game against when we were Burnley and the whole penalty carry on. He wanted it, and I like that. I like that bit of hunger, and I'm taking it. No, you're not. I'm having it. But he's if he's fit, he plays for England. I think he's up there with Ollie Watkins as second and third choice, and Tony as well. But the thing is, he just can't stay fit. But I do really like him. I think he's a talent. But
Wilson's probably a better all-round footballer than Watkins and
I
Tony as
yeah,
well.
I agree.
he's just. That's it. Like, I don't think when fans criticism, I don't think they criticise his ability. That's not in question. It's just the availability of him. I think
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what people are so annoyed of him because they say get rid, get rid. I agree. We're not signing another striker for 40, 50 million. That's not happening because Eddie Howe's already said in the presser that to replace him, how much will that cost? Because you're going to talk about like a 25-year-old who's probably done it in one or two leagues or got good numbers. It's going to cost. Well, that's not a priority. I don't feel. I think right wing is, and possibly another centre back. And I think if you are going to sign someone, either you're going to need someone who's at the very end of their career or someone who's willing, who's 19, 20, who's got a good reputation, who can sit around the bench and play. Like Chris Woodwell, he plays 10 minutes here, he might start the League Cup, but for me, Wilson's a 6, and I think you are going to get, again, unfortunately, next season, injury ravaged season.
I'm going to go 6 as well. I just think he's just missed too many games. Too many games. And look, he's had good performances this season. I'm not taking away that. I think it's just we need him more often. We need him at least to make, I would say, 70 to 75% of the games, and he's not getting that at this moment in time. Or to even be available for that. Look, he's a threat. He's a natural goal scorer. I agree. I think he is probably the second best striker after Kane when he's fit and he's firing. But like, I look at Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins. They're not better than Callum Wilson, in my opinion. But particularly Ollie Watkins can stay fit, and that's why he's getting the chances, and that's why he's getting like 19 goals this season. But Callum Wilson, for me, I would still keep him for next season. Again, just keep fit, and he makes 100. He'll score his 100th goal at St James's Park in a black and white shirt if he stays fit. But there's just that confidence we don't have. We don't have that confidence. The last player is the man that put the ball in the Macum's net. He put the ball in the Paris Saint-Germain net. He put the ball in everybody's net. Yes, he did. Alexander Isak. I'm going to kick it off with a 10 because we've said about Alexander Isak. This kid can score 20 goals a season, and he scored 21 in the Prem. Scored in the Champions League as well. Outstanding second half of the season in particular, but his form's been absolutely brilliant. He's been a nuisance. The Spurs game, Spurs couldn't deal with him at St James's at all. He scored a few penalties along the way. He's only missed one penalty. Good return, but his link-up play and the way he holds the ball up is just so good, so clever. He's worked really well with Gordon. And I've said Murphy occasionally as well, but Gordon's the one I kind of look at and go, there's just that chemistry, that understanding. But yeah, 21 goals. People will argue if you put him in that Man City team, does he score more than 27? Because that's what Haaland got. Does Haaland score 21 or more in a Newcastle top? I don't know. But outstanding season from the Swede. No one can afford him because he's that in terms of being that important in Newcastle. But yeah, 10 out of 10. Lee, I'm assuming you're going 10 out of 10 because you've been going out 10 out of 10 for the big guns.
Yeah, because I think everyone in the thumbnail is a 10 out of 10 for their season, but 25 goals in all comps, is it? Brilliant. I think that's the first since Alan Shearer, and that goes to show you how long it's been. Sam just sitting there with a smug on her face because I know what he's gonna say when it comes to Sam. I told you so. But look, absolutely talented, and obviously he does have that Thierry Henry kind of feel to him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where he just glides and he's slinky, and his finishing's brilliant. And he's too weak for the Premier League. That's nonsense. I don't believe in none of that. You don't have to be an extra stone heavier just to play in the Premier League because he looks like a marathon runner. To be honest with you, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Talented. Just hope he stays. I think he will for another season, but that's the only slight worry. But nobody can afford him, and I don't want the club to, say, "Oh, we'll take 60 million now and we'll pay installments." No, if you're gonna pay him, give us that 200 million. Pay it full down. Same as Bruno. If you want him, pay it full down, and we'll. But obviously, I don't want him to go. Of course not. What a talent, man! And I like the fact that he's so competitive on the. Have you seen the videos of him?
Yeah.
Anything. He just. And what's it with his London accent? It's dead weird, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
It is like the ghetto London accent, but he's so competitive. He gets so easily offended and upset at losing things like charades and stuff like that. I'm like, come on, man, have a bit of a laugh. He takes it dead seriously, but I don't mind that. 10 out of 10.
Well, we haven't got time for Sam's opinion, even though he said he was right. So we'll move on to Eddie Howe. No, go on. You can have your 2 pence. Come on, tell me how good he is.
The real deal. He's the real deal. We said at the end of last season, if he stays fit, he's a 20 goal a season striker. He hasn't stayed fit, and he's still got that many goals. He's just will continue to improve. Yes, he was he's learned and adapted his game, which is what I've loved to watch that improvement from him this season. Because Lee touched upon the point that he was getting pushed off the ball at times last season. He was a bit lightweight, um, but he's learned, he's adapted, and I think as well for a team, considering we're such a prolific team and have scored so many goals this season, I think there have been a number of games where we haven't done enough to get him in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could. I think we can be even more prolific with him, and I think there's more to come from him. I can see why Arsenal fans want him so much because he is the second coming of Thierry Henry. The way he drifts in, he can drift in from that left hand side, open his body up, and curl it round to put the ball in the net. He's good in the air. He's well on his way to being the complete striker. For me, he is world class. Um, but like Lee said, you can't afford him. I hope he signs a new bumper contract, and he's there with the top earners at the club, and because that's where he should be, and that's where he deserves to be. He's the real deal. I've known it for years. You all know that. And I hope he stays with us for as long as possible because he's just going to get better and better and better. And to have him in a Newcastle shirt, what if whilst that's happening, whew, we're on for one hell of a ride if that happens.
And there is your final poll results. In fourth place, Fabian Schär. In joint second place, Alexander Isak, who we've just been talking about, and Bruno Guimaraes. But he's been leading the poll all the way through, and I think it's probably just about right. Anthony Gordon
Does it
is,
surprise you though that how far Gordon is in front though?
yeah, I think Isak could be a little bit closer, if I'm honest. But 62% of you on this NFTV poll believe Anthony Gordon is the player of the season. And to be honest, I don't think many people can disagree with that. It is scoring the players, but we do have the manager to score, Eddie Howe. Lee, I'll let you kick this one off. Out of everything that he's had to deal with, he's done a good job this season, I think.
It is because me and Sam were doing the videos last game of the season, seventh. I was said it on video 19 times out of every 20 seasons. That gets you European football. We're just so unfortunate that we haven't. I mean, that might, in hindsight, might help Newcastle next season because we're only playing one game a week, and this didn't help. Obviously, other clubs that Newcastle obviously having the group of death went out, Man United going out, but you never know. Next season, fifth place might get you Champions League, and I'm quite happy to say I think Newcastle will do it with Eddie Howe in charge. I think we'll get top five because of all the less stress of having the Champions League games and the pile up of injuries. And look, I think the whole club needs to look at that and hire the right people if they haven't already, or doing it behind the scenes. But looking at where we are, I think he has come under a little bit of criticism, probably for the first time this season in particular. When was it? I think it was about February, and we were all saying every single one video because there's a few people in the comments saying Eddie Howe has to go, and I don't know if that was neutrals or whatever. But we're like, no, he's the man for the job, and look at the run that we went on to go on and finish seventh, which again would normally get in Europe. All the injuries to side, I think it has been a good season. I don't think it's been a great season because defensively, I think we've been a little bit all over the place. I understand why, but the protection hasn't been there in midfield. But going forward, we've been absolutely lightning. It's the most goals in God knows how long. It's the best in Premier League era, but I think a 7 is probably fair for Eddie Howe, considering where we are on the trajectory. If you looked at where we were, it's probably about right, because we can't go crazy and spend all the money. So if you say, oh, you got European football for normally, because it's a special rare circumstance that we haven't for 2 years running, you would say, great, that's a good achievement, because normally seventh would.
Sam, where do you sit on it?
Yeah, I was going to go 7 as well. Really, I said at the start of the season, I think top 7 is good. I'd be happy with it. I am happy with it. Obviously, there is a tinge of disappointment because of the manner we were knocked out of Europe before even qualifying for it. In essence, disappointed, not angry, but disappointed. No one could have expected what would happen with Tonali, what would happen with um, the quantity of injuries, but the severity of them as well. Um, you know, how many games this season have we had 2 goalkeepers and 3 kids on the bench alongside Richie and Dummett? There's work to do this summer. There's been a few games where Howe's maybe made a wrong call with his substitutions. Howe's maybe not played the right system, in my opinion. But I'm a fat man sat on his sofa. What do I know? But on the whole, I'm still more than happy with Eddie Howe. There was a time maybe that it was getting close to opinion turning ever so slightly, but not. He was never really under any real serious pressure during the season, I don't think.
I
And,
think
and
before that Sunderland game, there was a little bit of pressure. Because if we lost that, I think probably half the fan base turned on him.
yeah, if you're losing to a mid-table championship side, yeah, maybe when you're desperate for a cup run. But look, good run in the not a good run in the Champions League, but an exciting time in the Champions League, which could have been more. 2 domestic cup quarter-finals and a 7th place finish in the league. That I'll take that.
You basically kind of said what I was going to say in terms of a point there, but I think you've gone with the wrong score. I think it should be an 8 out of 10. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think I think when you look at it on the face of it, we finished 8 points off fourth. And I'm starting with the negatives first, and I'll go with the positives. And I'm looking at Luton home and away. I'm looking Bournemouth home and away. I'm looking Forest at home. I'm looking at
Everton.
Everton at home as well. Those are your points, and that's the reason why Newcastle aren't really in contention of a Champions League place. When we're being honest, look, under normal circumstances we would be in the because Johnny Bully Sam. But no, I think it's the right mark, and I just think 2 quarterfinals, and I don't blame him for the League Cup quarterfinal defeat. I don't think it was tactically the reason we didn't get through that game. Rather, I think it was just decision making. The FA Cup, we got the worst possible draw in the quarterfinals. And that,
Yeah,
and
two domestic cup quarterfinals with the draws we had
yeah,
to
exactly.
go with the group of death in the Champions League. Oh, but it's not the group of death. Hello,
Yeah,
we played each other in the bastard semi-final, man.
and then in that last group game in the Champions League, after 65 minutes, we were second. We just didn't manage the game brilliantly when Milan made it 1-1. But do you know what? Some performances this season, some games this season, I'll remember for the rest of my life. The double over Villa, the win against Paris, the fantastic point in Milan where we were battered. We got absolutely battered, particularly first half. The win against Sunderland,
Going
Spurs,
away for the fans.
Spurs, West Ham, Man United in the cup. There's been so many good performances this season, and I think Eddie Howe, yes, there's still going to be the odd question tactically, but I think that's because he's still improving as a coach, and I think he will get them right.
But there were some games where he got it a bit wrong, but then there was other games where he just absolutely got it so
Yeah,
right. Spurs at home was a stroke of genius. It really was.
Man for
every
man.
man for man, and it was an absolute treat. So, yeah, Eddie Howe is certainly the right man, and I do think he's the best English manager out there. And if there's nobody better, I do think the one, and I said this to you, Sam, we spoke earlier on the phone today. I do think if he doesn't get Champions League football next season, considering that when we're only playing one game a week, he may struggle to be in a job because I think that's the expectations of the board, but particularly the
So,
salaries.
so you think now is the time now that the expectation starts to ramp up, and that third full season now since the takeover, this is where it comes from. It would be nice if to we have to.
I think it's more from the board, Sam. I think the fans would be. I think if we finish seventh and got into Europe next season, I think the fans would. I think the fans would take it depending on the circumstances, but I just think the board will be thinking we need somebody that can almost guarantee us Champions League football. And if Eddie Howe can't do it with playing one game a week when all the other teams that are rivals are playing in Europe, is he ever going to get us back in there with
especially if the squad stays fit.
exactly,
Yeah, that's a big one,
and
isn't it? Fitness, because you would expect a bit of a drop off from Liverpool. You'd expect a bit of a drop off from Aston Villa, certainly. God knows what's happening with Man United and Chelsea. So yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. You're right.
like John, like someone just asked me here. I'm not wanting a new manager. I'm just thinking as a someone that would, in terms of someone that wants to be number one. In terms of the Saudis, they want Newcastle United to be number one sooner rather than later. But look, let's just see what happens. So let's enjoy the ride because we enjoyed the last couple of seasons and it's been a massive roller coaster. A bit like this video. It's been a roller coaster. We've had
Just to
good
point on as well,
plays.
if the FFP PSR changes as well the next 12 months, you never know. We might be able to spend a little bit more money. I know the situation not qualifying for Europe doesn't help, but obviously we've got the Adidas cash now to spend as well.
Salah cash is important as well.
America kits out on Friday.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
But yeah, going to be very, very busy, very, very hectic. A bit like Newcastle fans TV. As I've mentioned, Lee and I will be at England versus Bosnia Herzegovina, if that's how you pronounce it, in a friendly at St James's Park. Kieran Trippier is captaining the side. He will be leading the Three Lions out at St James's Park. Should be a fantastic evening. There will be a video or two out, so make sure you keep your eyes out for them. We've got videos coming out through the week. If there's any breaking transfer news, we will bring it to you. And yeah, hopefully we'll be talking about some Anthony Gordon goals and Kieran Trippier goals in the Euros as well. Not massive on the Euros, but if Newcastle do well, I'm sure we'll probably mention it. It'll be a brief video as well. But yeah, thank you to everybody that's put in comments throughout the whole 2.5 hours of being live. Probably a little bit longer than we all thought we were going to be today, but it's been really, really enjoyable. But yeah, the videos will keep on coming. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning of June and there's still 11 weeks until the Premier League starts. Japan is not a million miles away, and Lee Lawler's going to Japan, ladies and gentlemen. So he's looking forward to that. But yeah, we'll end things here. Thank you to everybody. Big thanks to Sam. Big thanks to Lee. Big thanks to all of you. Like and subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV, and we'll see you all.